Hello and welcome to Giant Mess, a super sloppy sports and entertainment podcast that's hosted by a giant mess. That's me, the real cinch Neal Lynch. On this pod, we like to talk movies, TV shows, Giants football, Mets baseball. On today's episode, we're going to be reviewing, recapping, and reacting to the Fantastic Four First Steps. So without further ado, let's get it started up. Yeah. Ooh boy, the first film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Phase 6. We did it, y'all. We got through Phase 5. I don't know how we did it, but we did it. Got through Phase 5. We're now on to Phase 6. This is the first entry, and it's a bit different. We're now in a different timeline, different universe. It's all different. And dare I say, it was a welcome change. We got a little glimpse of something that falls outside of what we're used to in terms of the MCU. Set in the 60s, totally set in the 60s. So we're not time jumping, it's just all set in the 60s, retro-futuristic setting. And the Fantastic Four are the only superheroes in this, known superheroes in this dimension, world, universe, timeline, what have you. And I saw this movie in the theaters, 3D, no big deal. MBD, 3D MBD. And I came away from it thinking, wow, that looked amazing. And it's the best Fantastic Four movie, in my opinion, that has been released. But as time has gone on, I keep seeing little grumblings and rumblings from around the web being like, was it as good as we thought it was? Is it as good as we thought it was? People are starting to doubt themselves. They're starting to doubt the product. For me, I've now rewatched it twice. I rewatched it when it came out on Disney Plus in early November, and I fell asleep. But that's not a reflection of the movie's quality or anything like that. I rewatched it again last night, took some copious notes. And I gotta say, maybe I do understand where people are coming from in that it does feel safe, does not feel like it's taking a lot of chances, doesn't feel like it's breaking new ground, but I still like it a lot. And I have not, my affinity for this movie has not wavered, and I have not gone back on what I thought when I first saw it. Could it have been better? Yeah, sure. There's no arguing that. I mean, there are certain, and this is where, I'm an oddball because certain people loved one character's arc and storyline. They want that character to have their own solo adventure. And I'm thinking to myself, to me, that was the most blah storyline, the most underdeveloped, the most kind of, it felt like filler. So those are my initial thoughts. I thought, the direction was good. I mean, there's no one's arguing with how great it looks. It looks so good. They really nailed the aesthetic. The visuals are amazing. Some say that the story was a little thin. I don't know about that. I thought they took a very interesting approach with Johnny Storm, the Human Torch. Kind of a different look at him and his personality, different side of that character. I'd kind of go back and forth on whether or not I liked this version of Reed Richards. There's no arguing this depiction of Sue Storm is awesome. If there's one character that they really got down pat and was the strongest character, not just physically, but just from a storytelling standpoint, the best character, it's Sue Storm, hands down. Would have liked to see some of the villains that they mentioned throughout the movie. I know there were plans to have an additional villain, but when you're at the current runtime that they are, you don't want to jam pack and stuff more stuff into the stuff because then it's bloated and you're missing what's important. So they stuck to what's important, and that's important. So let's dive into it. This is the 5th live in action incarnation of the Fantastic Four after 1994's The Fantastic Four. A few people know about. We'll get into that in a little bit. Fantastic Four 2005, Fantastic Four Rise of the Silver Surfer. That's going to be tough for me throughout this whole episode, is trying to say Silver Surfer. That is a tongue twister to the extreme. Wax a chump like a candle. So the 2005 and 2007 entries into this franchise, you had Chris Evans as the Human Torch, which he came back in Deadpool and Wolverine. Spoiler alert. Sorry. Deadpool and Wolverine, like one of the most popular movies of 2024. If I haven't seen it now, when are you going to see it? Come on, guy, get on that. But 2005, 2007, Chris Evans, Human Torch. You had Michael Chiklis as the Thing, Ben Grimm. You had, what was the name of that guy? What is the name of the Reed Richards? You know, I did all this, and I completely forgot who played it. I want to say Ian Gruffold. That does not sound right, dude. Definitely not. It is Ian Gruffold. Ian Gruffold. I mean, come on, guy. Ioan. That's his first name. I'm guessing that's Ian or Eoin Gruffudd. Gruffud. Change it. Jessica Alba as Sue Storm. And you had Julian McMahon as Dr. Doom. If you don't remember Julian McMahon, you didn't watch Nip Tuck, one of the best shows of the mid-2000s. So that was Fantastic Four 2005 and 2007. Julian McMahon played Dr. Doom, Dr. Victor Von Doom. And then you had the ill-fated box office bomb 2015 version of the Fantastic Four, which had Miles Teller as Mr. Fantastic, Reed Richards, Michael B. Jordan as the Human Torch, Johnny Storm, Kate Mara as Sue Storm, Jamie Bell as Ben Grimm, Toby Kebbell as Dr. Doom. And not a lot of people saw that movie. I mean, I didn't watch that movie. I can't bring myself to watch it. And to be honest, I don't know if I've watched Rise of the Silver Surfer. I think I've seen clips. I definitely saw Fantastic Four from start to finish. I'm pretty sure. The Rise of Silver Surfer, I don't think I watched. And then Fantastic Four 2015, I definitely didn't watch. So, but when it comes to the first one, 1994, yeah, I know. You can call bullshit all you want, dude. It happened. Or did it? In an interview with Kevin Smith, Stan Lee said that unbeknownst to its cast and crew, this movie, Fantastic Four 1994, was never intended to be released. It was made only because the studio that owned the rights to make a Fantastic Four movie would have lost those rights if production didn't start by a certain date. This film has never had a theatrical, VHS, DVD, or broadcast release in any country due to the apparent destruction of the film negative and film prints. Roger Corman, famed producer, said he was under contract to release it. And another guy named Eichinger, I don't have his first name, said the film was never released because Marvel Studios founder Avi Arad bought it and ordered all copies destroyed for fear of the low-budget project cheapening the Marvel brand. Arad confirmed this in 2002, adding that he had been unaware of an upcoming Fantastic Four film until a fan mentioned it to him after noticing Arad's Fantastic Four shirt. Arad has never seen the film. So how did he know it was cheap? How did he know low budget? How did he know? For more detailed explanation, in the mid-1980s, German film producers Constantin Film bought a 10-year option to the rights from Marvel Comics for an initial $250,000. That's a bargain. Just before the 10-year option ran out, and in order to meet the terms of the contract so they would have first refusal to renew them, Constantine hurriedly had put this film into production. Marvel were not impressed at the low-budget results, and in order to avoid damaging the brand, they quietly bought the few film prints and negative from Constantine Film to avoid the possibility of it getting any kind of theatrical or video release. Both Roger Corman and the director Ole Sasson and the cast and crew of the film were not consulted or informed of this move, as there were indeed plans in place for a small theatrical release, and a trailer had been made with this in mind. I have seen the trailer, and yeah, dude, that is some low budget shit. I mean, we're talking about not even like B movie level. I don't know. I'm not like a B movie aficionado, but it didn't even look like a B movie level type film. I will say that I was kind of impressed with the thing. You know, I guess most of the budget, which wasn't much, went to the creation of the thing's costume and makeup and prosthetics and all that. And I don't know, man. I think it looked all right. But yeah, this looks like something you would see while you're at the Fantastic Four amusement park ride, and they have like video playing. You know, back in the day, like if it didn't have a movie, they'd put together little video vignettes while you wait in line for the ride. That's what this looks like. So the end result was that Constantine Film were able to keep another 10-year option on the Fantastic Four film series. And then after Constantine secured funding from 20th Century Fox, the big budget version, Fantastic Four in 2005, was made. After the box office success of the 2005 version, several years before Marvel had formed their own film studios, Marvel then renewed Constantine Film's 10-year option, and this resulted in the sequel, Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer, and the reboot, Fantastic Four 2015. However, the critical and financial failure of the 2015 version made Fox get cold feet in the Fantastic Four project and withdrew to concentrate on keeping hold of its more successful and profitable X-Men franchise. And of course, all that, thank God, has reverted back to Marvel. We still have to deal with this Sony bullshit. I don't know when that's ever going to come to an end. Hopefully soon. But one cool aspect of me mentioning the 1994's Fantastic Four is that the four actors who played the main characters in the Fantastic Four 1994, Alex Hyde-White, Rebecca Staub, Jay Underwood, and Michael Bailey Smith portrayed make cameo appearances in the new Fantastic Four First Steps. They played television journalists, power plant workers, or Salute Johnny, and then again as civilians, thanking them. So I thought that was a cool gesture. We first got a glimpse. So after Fantastic Four 2015, we first got a glimpse and a little hint, a little Easter egg, a little clue that the Fantastic Four movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe was coming in Spider-Man Far From Home 2019 release. So as Peter Parker swings down to pick up MJ for their first swing together, you can see a sign in the background that reads, quote, "We can't wait to show you what comes next," followed by the numbers 1, 2, 3, question mark. So that was the first little indicator that the FF was coming down the pipe. Watch Mojo gave the Fantastic Four First Steps an honorable mention in their top 10 most anticipated MCU shows and movies episode that released in 2019. Watch Mojo also had the confirmation of the movie being in 9th place in its top 10 most exciting Disney Investor Day announcements, which released in 2020. Watch Mojo also had Fantastic Four First Steps as the 3rd most anticipated Marvel movie. That episode released in 2021. And then Watch Mojo had the Fantastic Four First Steps at number 2 in their list of top 10 must-watch movies and shows of July 2025. So lots of anticipation. A lot of people looking forward to this. A lot of people getting jazzed. At 1 hour and 54 minutes, this is the longest Fantastic Four film ever made. It's the first Fantastic Four film that does not feature Dr. Victor Von Doom as the main villain. Although, if you stick around to the end, Instead, we got Galactus. Galactus is the main antagonist, a cosmic devourer of worlds, portrayed as a looming godlike force, not fully humanoid, more abstract and planet-sized, leaning into the cosmic horror aesthetic, motivated by his insatiable hunger. Dude, you might have a tapeworm. but it hints at deeper cosmic balance. And then you have Silver Surfer, the Herald, or a Herald. I didn't see many other Heralds, so I'm going to say the Herald, but maybe she's just a Herald. Silver Surfer starts as Galactus's enforcer and locates Earth as his next target. As I mentioned, this released in theaters in late July, July 25th, 2025, released in Disney Plus November 5th with an IMAX enhanced option. I'm not totally sure what that means. I've now watched it twice on Disney Plus, and it's like, it looks great, but I don't know what IMAX enhanced means. To me, that should mean like my TV just grows bigger into the size of an IMAX gnome. That's what should happen. The subtitled First Steps references the film's ideas of optimism and space exploration, as in, this is one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. That kind of whole thing. That old quote, that old song and dance from the supposed 1969 moon landing. But also, there's a baby. There's a baby in this. So, baby's first steps. I think that's what they were going with that. So, clever little subtitle, like it. They didn't get too nuts with it, like the rude awakening, or I don't know, the dawn of the rise of the end of the era. It was just first steps. So, directed by Matt Shakman, he's known for producing or directing every single episode of WandaVision, one of the most out there TV series of all time, which I warmed up to after a while, and I was like, this is so wild, I love it. 7.9 out of 10 on IMDb from users. I gave it a 9. I think it's a high 8, I'd say. If I had to go like a 8.8. Shakman also directed 2 episodes of Game of Thrones, which has a 9.2 out of 10 from IMDb users. I gave it a 9. And probably best known for directing 43 episodes of a little show that not many people know about called It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, which has an 8.8 out of 10 on IMDb. I give it a 9, and I honestly should just give it a friggin' 10 at this point. It's just perfection. I don't care what no one says, dude. Matt Shakman shot the film with as many practical effects as possible, which helped the actors, and I love that. There are so many, and I mentioned this when reviewing Superman, that it must suck. And also in that, when I mentioned Superman, I referenced The Bubble, or some stupid movie that came out during COVID on Netflix, where it's like they're shooting an entire movie on this big green screen stage, and everyone's in like some kind of spandex outfit covered in mocap, and it's just like, how the fuck are you supposed to, I know, how are you supposed to act in that environment? Like, you don't have, you're like looking up at a tennis ball on a stick, and you're supposed to be scared. So I do like that, even though everything was eventually replaced with CGI elements over like 2,000 shots, it just helps the actors on stage in the set to react better and to give a better performance. So good on you, Matt Shakman. That's the way to do it, dude. The source material's comic books were created by Jack Kirby and Stan Lee in the 1960s, back when people dreamed about the stars and the unknown. The optimism of the space race. Spoiler alert, the space race, if I could go back to 60s and be like, hey guys, it's like, I don't know, didn't really go anywhere. It's like, yeah, we got this one billionaire who's like, just keeps like launching rockets, and sometimes most of the time they fail. And I'm pretty sure only rich people are going to be able to ride it to the new colony on the new planet when this one goes to shit. Shakman stated, quote, I really wanted to take all that great stuff from Apollo 11 and just imagine that instead of Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin, it was the Storms, Johnny Storm, Sue Storm, and Ben Grimm and Reed Richards heading off into space, which is pretty cool. Shakman was inspired by Stanley Kubrick's film 2001, A Space Odyssey, which came out in 1968. Hard to believe. And I remember in college, our fraternity threw in when everyone came back from winter break. So you go home for Christmas, finals are probably right around now, mid December. That's when I'm recording. Go back for Christmas. And then you have the option of like doing a course, coming back to school and doing like a winter course, kind of like an expedited course for like a credit over the winter. You can also do that over the summer, I think. And then everyone really comes back towards the end of January. And I usually hated that time period because it's when we had to wake up at the ass crack of dawn to go to baseball practice in the friggin' gym. So you got to get up. It's pitch black. Ain't nobody out walking around. No cars, no human life to be seen. And I had to walk from a fraternity house, which is so far away from the gym, to the gym in the freezing frickin' cold, late Jan, at like 5 something in the morning, and then practice in the morning, go to class, and then I think we might even had practice again in the afternoon. Boy, that stunk out loud. But our fraternity had a 2001, because my junior year was the fall semester was 2000, spring semester was 2001. So we threw a 2001 Space Odyssey themed fraternity party, which I'd say a good 90% of kids that were in attendance at that thing had no freaking clue what 2001 A Space Odyssey was, is, or will ever be. But, and you might be saying, well, how do you guys must have gone all out. Did you have Hal, the computer? And I was like, nah, we basically like, I think we just, it was in name only. It was like, it just turned into like a blacklight party. It was like, we're just going to get a bunch of neon shit and then just like cover the entire fraternity house in neon shit. And then black lights everywhere. And that's, 2001. Okay. Nice little side track there. Shackman also was inspired by Star Trek, the original TV series that ran in the late 60s. Other inspirations and influences include 2014's Interstellar, which I love and I need to rewatch and do a little breakdown analysis of that because what a lasting impression that made on me. But it's not something that I'm dying to go back to. Like I have no issues rewatching something like Jurassic Park, Aliens, Predator. Like I just have no. It's like, yep. Whenever I'm in doubt, that's my fallback. Interstellar is not in that mix, but it is something that I do want to revisit now that it's been 11 years later. Other influences include Spider-Man, 2002 Spider-Man, 2004 Spider-Man 2, 1995's Apollo 13. All tremendous influences to draw from. The screenplay is by Josh Friedman and Eric Pearson. Jeff Kaplan and Ian Springer, with a story by Eric Pearson, Jeff Kaplan, Aaron Springer, and Kat Woods. Kaplan, Springer, and Wood do not have many credits to their name, but Josh Friedman is known for writing Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, which was decent, 6.8 out of 10 on IMDb from users. I gave it a 7, so I was right there with the users. War of the Worlds, he wrote that in 2005, 6.6 out of 10. I gave it a 7. Again, I agree with the most users there. And then Terminator Dark Fate, which is a 6.2 out of 10 IMDb from users, and I gave it a 6. That's something I might have to go back to and rewatch. I saw that in the theater in Santa Monica because I was out there for a work trip and got to see it. It was one of those theaters where you could order and they bring the food to your seat. I was like, this is fucking pamp. Is this how pamps feel? So I liked War of the Worlds. Some really big time great moments. Terminator Dark Fate wasn't half bad. Would I recommend Terminator Dark Fate? Yeah. Why not? And then Eric Pearson, he's known for writing Thor Ragnarok, Black Widow, and Thunderbolts. Thor Ragnarok, 7.9 out of 10 on IMDb from users. I gave it a 9, and I'm willing to go as high as a 10. I think that's one of the best MCU movies ever. It's got awesome music. It's got awesome coloring. It's got awesome action. It's got awesome humor. It's got an awesome antagonist. It's just awesome, awesome, awesome across the board. That's one that I could rewatch. Like anytime someone says, I've never seen Thor Ragnarok, I'm like, oh, brother, find a TV right now with an internet connection and a subscription. Black Widow, 6.6 out of 10 on IMDb. People are not, I don't know, people are not too high on this, but I gave it an 8. I think I originally gave it a 7, and then I rewatched it, because this was a COVID movie. It didn't get like a huge major theatrical release, wide release, because that's when theaters were still kind of in limbo and most of them shut down. So I ended up watching this, I think, with my family in South Carolina over like a holiday break. And then I rewatched it recently. What for? Was it for Thunderbolts? Might have been. Yes, it was for Thunderbolts. And I gotta say, I liked it more. It's growing on me. So that's a 8. I mean, but it is insane what they did to to Taskmaster. Absolutely nutso what they did to Taskmaster. Like, Taskmaster is essentially built up as the big bad, not the big bad, but not exactly boss level, but like the main, bad guy that they have to keep coming across and beating up in Black Widow, and then towards the end they're able to get through to her and be like, hey man, you're gonna be all right. And so she's then and then Thunderbolts, 7.1 out of 10 on IMDb. I gave it an 8. Taskmaster gets popped and capped. Like the first scene in Thunderbolts. Son of a gun. So glad we spent all that time with her in Black Widow. But you want to talk about raising the stakes and grabbing my attention? Yeah, you got it, man. In that one of the opening scenes. Produced by Kevin Feige. Kevin Feige cited Spider-Man Homecoming as a reason why he didn't want this Fantastic Four First Steps to be an origin story. That seems to be the theme for a lot of superhero movies that you're seeing, at least well-known superhero movies that have been done and redone and done over. James Gunn's Superman, it's like, we're not going to show you how he becomes Superman. We're not going to get too in the weeds on like re-showing and retelling how he came to Earth and then and all that stuff. But we'll for sure reference it and incorporate it and integrate it into the story. It's just that we don't have to, like I keep mentioning, you don't have to see Bruce Wayne's parents get shot outside the movie theater in the alley with the pearls and everything. Like, you don't need to see that over and over and over and over again. Like, at this point, if you don't know about that shit, come on, dude. So it starts with the premise that the superheroes, the Fantastic Four, have been in the world for a few years now. The film begins 4 years that the team gains their powers. And Feige felt that they were bringing a fresh perspective to the film, and I wholeheartedly agree. They wanted to shift the focus away from Reed Richards and Sue Storm, Mr. Fantastic and Invisible Woman, to Franklin and Valeria Richards, which is that's one way to do it, my guy. Didn't really get to see or hear much of Franklin and Valeria. I don't know if they did it in Rise of the Silver Surfer. I probably should have watched that, huh? But smart move, because if you're going to set this in the 60s, at some point, I think the end goal is like these superheroes are going to run their course, not just the Fantastic Four, like Mr. Fantastic, Invisible Woman, The Thing, Human Torch, not just them, but like most of the superheroes that have gotten most of the spotlight and most of the theatrical releases and the attention over the past how many years, eventually, people are citing superhero fatigue, but I think it's just like, well, what's the next generation of superheroes look like? And how do we get to that next level that the comic books have entered? I mean, have been entering for 20 some odd years now. Or 15 to 20 years. They've been introducing new storylines that have become popular, but they just have not yet made their way to the big screen or the small screen, the boob tube, for the most part. But I think that's the end goal there, is like, hey, let's get to this next chapter in a story. But of course, things happen, and then you have people that want to reboot and do it their way. The film is set in Earth 828 as the home reality of the Fantastic Four. The Earth is a 1960s inspired retro-futuristic setting. Technology is vastly different. The Fantastic Four are the only known superheroes within this universe. The designation 828 is derived from Jack Kirby's birthday. That's one of the Fantastic Four's co-creators. He was born on August 28th, which was supposed to be my daughter's birthday. And then she just decided to hang out in the womb for an extra week. So let's take a look at the cast. Marvel Studios held screen tests for Reed Richards with several actors, including Christopher Abbott and Jamie Dornan. Christopher Abbott, you might know from Wolfman, the most recent version, which did not get great reviews, and I have not. It's kind of turned me off from seeing it. I was kind of pumped to see it because I thought with the success of The Invisible Man that this was going to be kind of in line with that, and apparently not. And he was also in Kraven the Hunter. He was the Foreigner, which is one of the weirdest. I mean, Kraven the Hunter, the movie was just so oof, but it was not like a hard watch. It was I think how did this get made, which is a very famous podcast. Have you heard? Did an episode on it, and it's just like, yeah, we recommend watching it because it's fun and dumb and just silly, but it's not good. It's enjoyable to watch. And his character, the Foreigner, in this movie, has a really cool superpower, but like he doesn't look like he would be a superhero or villain, and I think he's dispatched fairly easily, which I was like, huh, okay. And also, why are you called the Foreigner? And then Jamie Dornan, 50 Shades of Grey. Yeah, I don't know. I just don't see it. I don't think they got the chops, but one of the reports indicated that the screen tests for those two did not go very well. So, this was insane, but Marvel offered the role to Jake Gyllenhaal, which seems like a major mistake considering he portrayed Quentin Beck, aka Mysterio, in the MCU film Spider-Man Far From Home, which came out in 2019. Unless I'm missing something where it's possible that in the comics, Mysterio, like Reed Richards in the 60s, but then all of a sudden something happens and he becomes Quentin Beck Mysterio. I don't know. I'm not too familiar with the comics, but it just seems wild that they were like, you just had him as Mysterio, and now you're going to have him as Reed Richards. That makes no sense. Milo Ventimiglia, who you might remember from This Is Us. Adam Driver. Matt Smith, who was Morbius's friend in Morbius. Morbin Time. Dev Patel, Penn Badgley, and Zachary Levi were all considered for the role of Reed Richards. I gotta be honest, I don't like any of those dudes. As Reed Richards, sorry. I probably should have completed the sentence. I love all those actors, but I just don't really see them doing well as Reed Richards. I think I just don't buy it. So I really like the idea of Pedro Pascal as Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic. I think that was a great casting. Reed Richards, if you're not familiar, is a highly intelligent scientist and the leader of the Fantastic Four who can stretch any part of his body to great lengths. Matt Shackman described Reed Richards as, quote, the most scientifically intelligent person on the planet, and a combination of Steve Jobs, Albert Einstein, and a guy named Robert Moses. And no, not the offensive lineman from the Washington Commanders or the Jets or whatever. Robert Moses was an urban planner and former New York Secretary of State, regarded as one of the most powerful and influential people in the history of New York City and New York State, which is wild that I've now lived in the New York City metropolitan area for God knows how long. Too long, in my opinion. And never heard the name Robert Moses. So, but then again, like I've lived in New Jersey. I don't know if that's like they keep that from us B&T folks, those New Yorkers. Shackman said the character of Reed Richards was the hardest to cast because he found Pedro Pascal to be the best choice in part due to having a long-standing relationship working together in film. Meanwhile, this is this is Matt Shackman's first feature-length film that he's directed. It's all been TV up before this. So I think for a first-timer, knocked it out of the park. He also noted that he drew inspiration from many of the iterations of Reed Richards from the comics, as opposed to previous portrayals of the character, such as Ian Grofod, Miles Teller, and John Krasinski in the Marvel Cinematic Universe film Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, which came out in 2022. That was a very cool cameo, and it got everybody's hair on fire. Everyone was buzzing about that cameo. Krasinski had been a popular suggestion for the role among fans for some time, and rumors that he had been cast as Reed had especially circulated some confirmation of the new film's development. The version of the character that he plays in Multiverse of Madness is from Earth 838, not 828, 838, an alternate universe to the main MCU, and is a member of the Illuminati. Now you might be saying, what, dude? You mean that group with Jay-Z and Beyonce? So this is not the real secret society that was founded on May 1st, 1776 in Bavaria, or what was known as Bavaria, which is now known as, now part of Germany. Founded by Adam Weishaupt, a professor of canon law. I didn't even know that that was a thing. Like, I don't know, is that canon? And former Jesuit. The society promoted Enlightenment ideals such as reason, secularism, and equality, and sought to oppose superstition, interesting, religious influence over public life, and the abuse of state power. So, yeah, I mean, superstition, when unchecked, can get a lot of people dead. That was a lot of superstition. Like, oh... burn her. A lot of witches died during that time. And this is the Illuminati that I'm referencing is not the conspiracy theory about a shadowy elite cabal that secretly controls world affairs, masterminds major historical events, and plots to establish a new world order. And no, I don't mean the WCW faction with Hollywood Hulk Hogan, Scott Hall, and Kevin Hall, and Scott Hall. No. Diesel and Razor Ramon. The Illuminati in Marvel Comics is a clandestine council of Earth's most brilliant and influential heroes, formed by Iron Man, Mr. Fantastic, Doctor Strange, Black Bolt, which his death in fucking Multiverse of Madness, dude. Woo-wee! That was hardcore, dude. Namor, aka the Submariner, who we saw in Black Panther Wakanda Forever, and Professor X, with Black Panther initially declining. Scheduling conflict. Creative differences. So this group was formed, the Illuminati group was formed after the Kree-Skrull War to secretly manage global threats, but their secretive nature and morally gray decisions often created more chaos, leading to events like the, quote, World War Hulk, which sounds awesome and should be a movie ASAP, and the Incursions, eventually disbanding and reforming as they deal with multiversal crises. They act as a think tank, making world-altering decisions without public knowledge, often wielding powerful artifacts like the Infinity Stones. Ever heard? So that's cool. And if that is coming down the highway for the MCU, that'd like. I think that'd be cool. Illuminati and World War Hulk would. I feel like that would just print money. But I've been wrong more times than I've been right. Vanessa Kirby is Sue Storm, Invisible Woman. And like I said in the intro, like, just a dynamite casting. They couldn't have gotten that any better than they did. I know Emma Stone was in the mix, but she's already been in, like, was she MJ or not MJ? In the Amazing Spider-Man movies with, what's his face? Andrew Garfield. But Vanessa Kirby I don't think they could have asked for a better actress to play Sue Storm, dude. So good. So good. I mean, she's no Jessica Alba. We all know that, but Vanessa Kirby, I'm going to say it, reminds me of a young Jenna Jameson. And if you don't know who Jenna Jameson is, then I'd say give it a Goog, but Google's dead. It's just all ChatGPT and Perplexity and AI now. So you can ask AI, and hopefully it'll answer. I don't know. Maybe it won't. Gemini is too much of a prude to answer it, probably. That's Google's AI agent. You know who else looks like a young Jenna Jameson? Millie Alcock, the new Supergirl, who is in the Game of Thrones prequel House of Dragon. Look it up, dude. I'm telling you. Sue Storm, Invisible Woman, is Reed's pregnant wife, Johnny Storm's older sister, and can generate force fields and turn invisible. She's founder of the Future Foundation, which has achieved global demilitarization and peace. Oh, wishful thinking. In the comics, a Marvel Comics scientific think tank and superhero team founded by Reed Richards to solve the world's biggest problems. That was the Future Foundation in Marvel Comics, gathering brilliant minds and empowered individuals, including kids like Valerian Franklin Richards and even villains like Doctor Doom after the Human Torch's initial death. Whoa, that's also pretty cool. Can we have an Illuminati versus Future Foundation mashup? They focus on large-scale humanitarian and scientific challenges. Oh, maybe the Future Foundation becomes the Illuminati. Oh boy, Neal, you done did it again. Future Foundation focuses on large-scale humanitarian and scientific challenges, with members like Spider-Man, Ant-Man, She-Hulk, and Dragon Man. Where you at, Dragon Man? When is your solo project coming out? Matt Shakman, the director, describes Sue Storm as, quote, the most emotionally intelligent person on the planet. Sure, why not? Kirby, Vanessa Kirby, the actress, focused on motherhood as the through line. The actress said she was obsessed with the comics run where Sue takes on the negative persona Malice, and she included elements of that version in her portrayal so Sue would not be, quote, the stereotype of a goody sweet mother, end quote. Malice, if you're not familiar, because I wasn't, is a Marvel Comics villain primarily known as an invisible energy being that possesses people, most notably X-Men members like Dazzler and Polaris, which I thought was one of the characters in Gen V. Anyway, that makes me think she's kind of like Jean Grey's Dark Phoenix when Jean Grey goes into her Dark Phoenix era. By the way, I'm going to be so happy when this era talk stops. I feel like for something to be an era, it has to be longer than your 6-month stint in Spain. You know, it's just like it feels like it should be longer than that. If you want to you can give a Goog to an image search of Malice, because holy shit. I'm looking at the image right now. My goodness, I might have to press pause for a little bit, collect myself, because it is like a dominatrix type outfit, like thigh-high leather high stiletto boots. So up to the mid-thigh, at least 6 inches on them heels. Gotta have a cape, but it's just, yeah. So I don't know, give it a Goog. Something to look at. Amanda Seyfried, Bryce Dallas Howard, Margot Robbie, Emma Stone, Megan Fox, Brooklyn Decker, and Kristen Bell were all considered for the role of Sue Storm, and I gotta agree here. They did the right thing by passing on all those people. Like, maybe Margot Robbie, but she's so closely tied with Harley Quinn and the DC comics. And it's not like it hasn't been done before in terms of like playing a superhero in this comics universe and then going over here and playing a different character. Like, I get it. But for a character that's supposed to be pretty major in this universe, I just don't think Margot Robbie's the right choice. She wouldn't, I mean, I have no doubt she would have done a great job. I think it would have confused people. Same with Emma Stone. It's just like, we've seen you in Marvel, like, we've seen you. Megan Fox, I don't think would have worked. Interesting that Brooklyn Decker would be mentioned here. Kristen Bell would be interesting. It's not a hard no, but I like Vanessa Kirby has like a presence about her that can be physically intimidating. I don't know what Kristen Bell's can be physically intimidating. Ebon Moss-Bachrach definitely butchered that shit. As Ben Grimm, aka The Thing, Reed's best friend, former astronaut, skin has been transformed to a layer of orange rock, granting him superhuman strength and durability. Moss-Bachrach portrays the Thing through motion capture and computer-generated imagery, CGI, rather than prosthetic makeup, which it looks good in certain scenes and doesn't look good in certain scenes. I want to say like the scene where they're showing them, they're doing like the flashback to when they crash land and the Thing punches out the window. It's like, that doesn't look right. Ebon discussed the process with Mark Ruffalo, who portrays the Hulk in the MCU using the same technology. In addition to Moss-Bachrach performing his scenes in a mocap suit, some takes were refilmed with the actor using different body extensions or stand-in wearing a life-size Thing costume to help the other actors reference the space that the character takes up. Again, that's a really smart choice. Shackman consulted scientists and studied desert rocks to find the best reference for the Thing's appearance. A specific desert rock that matched his desired look for the Thing, referred to as Jennifer, was also filmed on set as a lighting reference for the Viz effects team. Joseph Quinn as Johnny Storm, the Human Touch. Human Touch? He's got the human touch. I mean, that has to be the name of his character in the porn parody, right? The Human Touch. I mean, that's a no-brainer. Joseph Quinn, you might remember, it was Eddie in Stranger Things Season 4. Eddie Munson. Does that name sound familiar? Yeah, dude. Yeah, that Eddie Munson. Who I thought he was awesome in Stranger Things, had one of the best scenes in TV history, and I'm willing to go to my grave defending that in that series, in that season. He was also in Gladiator 2, which was all right, and I think he was in another movie that was pretty big time. I can't pull right now. Johnny Storm, Sue Storm's younger brother, member of the Fantastic Four, can control fire and fly. While Quinn was a fan of Chris Evans' portrayal of the character in the second two Fantastic Fours, he did not base his portrayal on Evans, which I think was smart, but I also think it was a little bit jarring how different it was. Quinn and producer Kevin Feige discussed Johnny's womanizing in previous portrayals and concluded that this would not be considered sexy by modern audiences. Quinn wanted his version to be less callous with other people's feelings and more self-aware of his attention-seeking behavior while still having a lot of bravado and humor. I don't know that he had a lot of attention-seeking behavior, and the bravado wasn't like ever present. This is a much, I don't want to say more toned down Johnny Storm, but it is not Chris Evans' Human Torch by any means. Shackman noted that Johnny is also smart and heroic despite undercutting that with jokes, and I think they made a tremendous effort in this movie to not portray him as this himbo, that some might say Chris Evans was, where he's just like clueless but hot. So that there was a whole storyline that spoke to that in this here flick. And then Julia Gardner, whom I love, as Shala Ball, aka Silver Surfer. Julia Gardner, you might remember from I'm blanking on it. She was actually in Wolfman, ironically. Maybe that's why they wanted Christopher Abbott. The Ozark, which Ruth in Ozark, and my God, fucking crushed it in that series. And then she was also in Weapons, which I think I might have to review, y'all. That might be in the queue. I think I'm gonna do it because that is a movie that I was like kept hearing about. I was like, what is this movie exactly? And it did not disappoint. Lakeith Stanfield lost the role of the Silver Surfer to Julia Gardner, which is interesting. Lakeith Stanfield from Sorry to Bother You, Atlanta TV series. He was in some Prime Video movie that just came out that was like, meh. And then I also just watched Roofman. He was in Roofman, which Roofman was so good. Definitely check that out. I don't know if I'll do a full review, but ooh, man, that got me. That was good. So the Silver Surfer, Shala Bal in the comics is the love interest of Norrin Rad, and she becomes the Silver Surfer herself in the 1999-2000 Earth X limited series by Jim Krueger and John Paul Leon. So Norrin Rad, I believe, was the original Silver Surfer. Yeah. Silver Surfer is an alien from the utopian planet Zenla, Shala Bal is an alien from the utopian planet Zenla who agreed to become Galactus's metallic skin herald. We'll tell you why in a hot beat. She travels through space on a surfboard-like craft in search for planets for Galactus to feed on. And Garner portrayed the Silver Surfer through motion capture, combining research on surfing poses with statuesque non-surf poses from the comics to have the character move elegantly like a dance. I thought Silver Surfer looked great. It was I do not mind that it's a lady at all. Actually, I applaud that big time because that was very cool. seeing a lady of that stature. I think they nailed it. It's just maybe this is where I don't know. I'm kind of torn on this. Like, does the Silver Surfer appeal to the younger generation, the newer generation, Gen Z and younger? Because this is a PG-13 movie, and they are trying to hit that quadrant. Y'all, the young kids. Where the kids at? Like, does it appeal to them, or do they just look at it and go, "This is silly. This is not 6'7", dude." So I don't know. To me, I mean, like, the 60s, when this movie was set and when the comics debuted, surfing was all the rage. It was just like Beach Boys left and right. And so I think that's why it had more of an appeal in the 60s when everyone was freaking high off their freaking rocker. Listening to the Beach Boys, like Silver Surfer, it's like, yeah, man, Silver Surfer. But does it still resonate with today's audience? I don't know. Sarah Niles is Lynn Nichols, the chief of staff of the Future Foundation. And I read this in my research. I don't know that you ever got a hint of this in the movie, but after reading it in the research and then rewatching the movie, it's like, whoa, maybe? She potentially is connected to Namor, the submariner from Wakanda Forever. Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. Black Panther 2. Mark Gatiss as Ted Gilbert, the host of the popular talk show called The Ted Gilbert Show, which was kind of like a spoof or parody of The Ed Sullivan Show. Natasha Lyonne, who you might remember from, oh my God, everything. American Pie, Poker Face, Russian Doll, a bunch of other really great movies and TV shows. Orange is the New Black. So Natasha Lyonne plays Rachel Rosman, a school teacher and Ben Grimm's love interest. This, I mentioned this in the intro. This was the storyline that kind of tripped me up a little bit in terms of the movie. It just felt like it either didn't get enough screen time, and for me, it's like, well, if they didn't fully commit to it, or they just kind of threw it in there, and it's like, probably could have done without it, and I don't think anyone's gonna blink twice. Commentators believe the character was named as a tribute to Rosalind Roz Goldstein, who is the wife of Fantastic Four co-creator Jack Kirby. Leone voiced the original MCU character Birdie the Duck in the third season of the Marvel Studios animated series What If in 2024. Birdie the Duck is the hybrid daughter of Darcy from Thor, played by No. She's in Two Broke Girls. Oh my God. Kat Denning? Is it Kat Denning? It's Kat Denning, is it? Yeah, Kat Dennings. My God. Oh. And so Birdie the Duck is the hybrid daughter of Darcy and Howard the Duck, which was voiced by Seth Green, which I thought was a great choice. Paul Walter Hauser is Harvey Elder, a.k.a. Mole Man, He is an enemy of the Fantastic Four, human ruler of Subterranea, an underground society whose inhabitants refer to themselves as Moloids. Change it. Shackman compared Harvey Elder to a leader of a labor union with humanity and a focus on community and taking care of his people. Mole Man was the very first villain the Fantastic Four fought in the comics with the very first issue in November 1961. So very fitting that he has a somewhat prominent role here. Paul Walter Hauser, you probably remember from, what was it called? Richard Jewell, about the security guard at the 1996 Summer Olympics in Atlanta. And he's been in a slew of other stuff. He's always good, dude. He was in the most recent remake of The Naked Gun. Or not a remake. I guess it's a sequel with Liam Neeson and Pam Anderson, which I loved. Definitely check that out. Paul Walter Hauser, though, so good. So good. And then Javier Bardem was being eyed to portray Galactus after Antonio Banderas was linked to the character. Say what now? Instead, they got Ralph Ineson as the voice of Galactus, sole survivor of a dead universe that existed before the creation of Earth 828. Shackman called him a humongous 14 billion-year-old planet-devouring cosmic vampire. Put that on your LinkedIn bio. Innocent did not think Galactus was evil, calling him a god of sorts and a big planet-eating guy, simply doing what a big planet-eating guy does, and that is quilt, sew, knit, arts and crafts. The actor spent time ruminating at the top of tall buildings to prepare for the role, which I thought was really funny. And when I was going through my deepest, darkest times in 2021 was an awful year. One of the worst years of my life. I worked in the 50th floor of the World Trade Center, not the Freedom Tower. 4 World Trade Center. There's more than one. Did you know that? Wow. The more you learn, the more you know. And just looking down from the 50th floor and being like, that is a long fall. Is this glass sturdy? Is it strong glass? Kevin Feige loved the introduction of Galactus in the comics and had long wanted to use him. The film uses a comic book accurate design in contrast with the cloud-like design in Rise of the Silver Surfer. I'm trying to think of a cloud that ever went over well with audiences. It just seems like it never, maybe like the Lion King, like Mufasa appearing in the clouds. That was kind of cool. But if your main villain is a cloud, no. Like even, I guess the only cloud to really pull that off was the black smoke in Lost. That was kind of, that was intense. But no, mostly if it's a big cloud, no, it's just not doing it for me. Galactus's purple and blue armor was built for Innocent to wear, as it was important to Shackman that someone was embodying the part. Matthew Wood voices the Fantastic Four's robot companion Herbie. Herbie's an acronym standing for Humanoid Experimental Robot B-Type Integrated Electronics. Come on now. Feels like we can do better than that. Herbie realized through a combination of wooden puppet, a remote-controlled animatronic that had a functioning head and arms and visual effects. Love that. Has a look that is similar to Wall-E or Johnny Five from Short Circuit. He serves as Reed's assistant. Shackman said Herbie is charming, adorable, and invaluable to the team. And yeah, I agree with that. And then get this. I'm about to blow your breasts off your torso and your upper body. Why are your boobs on your torso, dude? They're supposed to be on your chest. John Malkovich was cast as Ivan Kragoff, a.k.a. Red Ghost. Shackman revealed that Malkovich's role as Red Ghost had been cut from the film and said this was a heartbreaking decision to make. Shackman explained that Red Ghost was originally planned to be introduced in a sequence at the beginning of the film that chronicles the Fantastic Four's early years as superheroes. This would have included a battle against Red Ghost and his super apes. Real thing from the comics. After this, Red Ghost would have returned in the climax for a scene that initially depicted him destroying Reed's teleportation bridges, Although Red Ghost was replaced by Shallow Ball in that scene for the final cut of the film because Shackman felt it just made more sense to have her come back. Stayed more on story with the antagonist we knew and we're spending the most time with, and I agree. I do still think they could have just given us a little sneaky peek at some of these villains that are mentioned in the movie. So let's dive into the plot. We kick off the movie with a retro Marvel Studios logo, which really sets the tone. Very cool aesthetic. We get the shot of the super cool Baxter building. Text on screen reads Earth 828, so it lets you know right away this is not, which is interesting because do they do that in a lot of the other Marvel movies? I think they do. At least in Deadpool and Wolverine, they did. Did they do it in Multiverse of Madness? They must have. We see Reed Richards searching for aloe iodine, which I had to look that up as I was like, what the hell is aloe iodine used for? Iodine is a traditional antimicrobial agent that disinfects skin and wounds. Aloe vera moisturizes, reduces inflammation, soothes, and promotes skin regeneration. So when you combine them with their forces combined, it creates a balanced product where aloe counteracts some of iodine's potential dryness, while iodine boosts the antimicrobial action, improving healing and preventing infection. It's the first time I've ever heard of aloe iodine. And Reed claims that he needs it for his shoulder, but as you'll come to find out over the course of this movie, he says things sometimes that aren't like 100% true, and it's to protect people and maybe to cover the truth and to maybe not be as forthright. That felt like a running theme here. So maybe it wasn't for his shoulder. Maybe it was for Sue Storm. Sue Storm's on the turlet. She's on the throne, porcelain throne, and she's looking down at something off screen. Don't know what. She looks scared, and then she smiles. And it's revealed that she's holding a pregnancy test. And this pregnancy test ain't your mama's pregnancy test or your grandmama's. This takes place in the 60s. This is the most advanced looking pregnancy test I've ever seen in my life. It's a device, an electronic device with doodads and whatchamacallit, thingamajigs. And so this is another clue, right? That we're in this different world. This is not the world that we're accustomed to. Reed is already worrying about if the baby will be affected by the cosmic rays or be affected like they were affected by the cosmic rays. So the cosmic rays, those are the things that ended up altering them and giving them their powers. And now he's worried about if the baby will be affected by the cosmic rays, and will it also give the baby powers, or will it do something else? We're introduced to that's when we get into some serious exposition and backstory, and it's all delivered in expert fashion by Ted Gilbert on the Ted Gilbert Show. I thought this was a really smart and clever way to, he's in the movie, in this story, Ted Gilbert this is his way of introducing the Fantastic Four, and by also, in effect, introducing us, the movie audience, watching the story to the Fantastic Four. So I thought this was a great way to kind of get stragglers up to speed. You know, if this is like your first rodeo with the Fantastic Four, you don't have a clue who they are, what they're doing. This is a good way to catch you up. But it's also a great way to, to introduce them to the MCU and say, like, this is our Fantastic Four. He starts with, folks, we all know the story, which, again, so meta. It's like, yeah, we all know the story, but feel free to tell it again. Sue Storm, so there's a section here where they're in their astronaut outfits, costumes, uniforms. Oh my God. Suits. Jesus. And they're, this is kind of like behind the scenes documentary footage of them preparing for their space flight. And Sue, in reference to Johnny, says, ladies, he is very single. And Johnny's reaction is something that you wouldn't normally expect, having seen Chris Evans' version of Johnny Storm, the Human Torch. We didn't get that kind of reaction. You know, in this one, he's looking kind of embarrassed, like not confident. And that goes against what, you know, Chris Evans' portrayal was, which was just cocky, cocksure, cock. Just got that grin, that smirk, that all-knowing look. We find out that they went to space, came back different. The team's costumes that they wear when they are officially become the Fantastic Four are pale blue with white necklines, similar to the designs introduced in the comics with Fantastic Four Volume 1, which came out in 1983. So, interesting. We get to see them, each character showing off their superpowers. We get to see the flying car, the Fantastic Car. There are 2 models of the team's Fantastic Car, and they reminded me of that concept car that Homer Simpson came up with on The Simpsons, which I'm looking at the picture now, and it's pretty much spot on. At least his drawing looks a lot more like the Fantastic Car that we end up seeing in this movie. Not so much when it's in production, but they battle a monster, which I presume to be Giganto or Giganto if you are Hispanic. There's we get to see that there's actually an animated series in this world about them. So it's implying that they are famous enough to have and they've been around long enough to have their own TV show. There are billboard ads featuring Johnny Storm, which parodies the Coppertone suntan lotion ads. We could see his butt cheeks. And then Mole Man attacks the Pan Am building, which I guess Pan Am was like the shit in the 60s. I've never seen, there's so many, you cannot do a 60s TV show or movie without Pan Am being heavily involved. They even had, I think they even had a short-lived TV show called Pan Am. Not that didn't come out in the 60s, but it was set in the 60s. So Pan Am was like all over the place. What happened to Pan Am? I'm sure there's a Netflix doc on it. And then you find out that Mole Man was actually trying to steal the Pan Am building. Not sure why. They mention the Mad Thinker. So Ted Gilbert in his recap or, you know, highlight reel introduction for the Fantastic Four mentions the Mad Thinker, but we don't get to see him, which would have been nice to see that. And then they defeated Red Ghost and his Super Apes. We never see Red Ghost, and so we never get to see John Malkovich as Red Ghost, but we do get to see a Super Ape. Reed's teaching class to a class of kids for a TV show talking about parallel dimensions. Ooh, little teaser, Easter egg, hint that parallel dimensions might be coming down the road. And then in this lecture, Reed Richards says this equation not only confirms alternate dimensions, it suggests that parallel Earths exist on different dimensional planes. Oh, baby. So we're getting a little taste, a little hint of like, hey, this is, if you're wondering like, how's this connected to the MCU? That's the route they're going. And the students are bored, which is like, come on, we're talking about some cool shit. But they're kids, and kids have no interest in that shit. And so he says, you want to see an explosion? And they all, yeah, cheer. So it must be tough because there's a lot of cool stuff. Like looking back, there was probably a lot of cool stuff in school that we just did not pay attention to. Well, just kind of lumped it together. School sucks. Sue brokers a peace deal with Mole Man Harvey Elder, who for sure has a crush on Sue. The Future Foundation gets the countries to agree to disarm armed forces. And you see everyone in the UN just kind of like agreeing and casting their vote, except for there's an empty seat, and that empty seat belongs to Latveria. Guess who is running the show for Latveria? That's right. The good doctor, Dr. Vic Von Doom. There are a bunch of magazine covers, which I loved. I have no idea if they were actually real in the 60s, but I thought they were great visuals. And then finally, after this lengthy intro, Ted announces the Fantastic Four to much fanfare. Back home, at the Baxter Building, or where the Fantastic Four reside. We get introduced to Herbie. We see Johnny Storm and the Thing preparing for dinner. You know, Johnny's eating cereal out of the box, and the Thing, Ben Grimm, is cooking up a storm, and they're sitting there and they're waiting for Reed and Sue to come in. And they come in, and Johnny says, "You're late," and they kind of like freeze. I guess because they didn't want to tell anyone. And listen, I've been there. It's tricky. Like, you just find out. You don't exactly want to. In my case, I didn't want to jinx it. But I feel like most couples, even when they get the positive pregnancy test, they wait until it's like you cannot wait anymore to tell people. So I get it, but they freeze, and Johnny says, "You're late for dinner." And this reminded me of that scene in Austin Powers with Frau Frabisina and Dr. Evil. Like, Frau goes to Dr. Evil. So this is after they made Whoopi knock boots. Frau goes, "I'm late." And Dr. Evil's like, "No, you're right on time. I don't." She's like, "I'm late." Ben knew Sue was preggo, but Johnny didn't. How did Ben know? The look on Reed's face, possibly. So it just gives you kind of a nice, we're peeling the onion, right, on the Thing, Ben Grimm, that even though he appears as this monstrous big rock thingy that seems to be hard and unfeeling and cold, it's like he's actually very intuitive and in tune with emotions and vibes and all that stuff. So Johnny Storm says to Reed, this is a great quote, "You're going to be the best dad." Just kidding, you're out of your depth. I thought that was great. I'm not going to lie. The age disparity between Pedro Pascal and Vanessa Kirby is not alarming, but it's just like, it feels like it's a bit much. But that has been like the case for Reed Richards and Sue Storm for like the longest time. Like Ian Grufford and Jessica Alba, it's like, did you see them as a couple? It's just so, feels like they're so far apart in age. This one, Pedro Pascal and Vanessa Kirby are a little bit better and closer, but it still feels like, okay. I'm going to end up with a 25-year-old, aren't I? Oh, fuck. News of the pregnancy spreads, and there's a montage of things to do around the house to prepare for the baby. We get introduced to Lynn from the Future Foundation. Lynn Nichols, Chief of Staff. Key organizational role. Like, you watch the movie and you're not entirely sure what she does, or I don't know. I must have glossed over, like glazed over when that came. That description, the explanation came. It's like, well, what do you do here exactly? So apparently it's a key organizational role where she assists and supports the team as they get started, acting as a crucial liaison and helping manage the foundation's operations. Will the baby be born with superpowers? That's the big question. In Reed's lab, he is able to record deep space transmissions, and you get to see the golden record. Apparently, this golden record was something that was super prevalent in real life, in our timeline, in our reality, here in Earth. I don't even know what Earth we are. Are we 616? So that's a real thing from NASA, the golden record. And then we get to see the bridge teleportation test, which was successful with an egg, transporting an egg from one side of the room to the other, but it knocks out the power. Johnny ends up playing the golden record and hears an unknown language, so that piques his interest, and that's the beginning of his journey and his storyline into learning more about this. And a pregnant Sue Storm gets upset that Reed wasn't building the crib and the nursery. We have all been there, where it's like, but it's our crib. I know that Herbie can do it, but it's our crib. It's like, okay. I just remember I built my crib, not my crib, the crib for Bree, my daughter. I built that, and I took a picture of it. I was so proud because it took me forever. I like sent it out to all kinds of group chats, and people are like, I mean, you look like shit. It's Halloween time in the movie. Ben Grimm is walking through the neighborhood with his Brooklyn Dodgers hat. He gets a request to say his famous line from the cartoon, from that obnoxious guy in the hat on the street. You get the kids screaming and demanding that he lift a car, which he does. He pretends to throw it at them, which I thought was a nice touch. And we're introduced to Roz, the school teacher. Again, a storyline that's like, I feel like they pretty much, like, they nailed it with each character's storyline except for Ben Grimm in the thing. But yet, that's the one that, I guess that's the character that people were most drawn to and want to see a solo project for. Okay. Maybe it is because it was not so much underdeveloped, but we didn't get enough time with him, or we liked what we saw and we just wanted more, but we understood it couldn't fit into this movie. I don't know. So in the movie, Johnny Storm doesn't say his signature catchphrase "Flame on." Instead, he pulls out a toy version of himself from a cereal box and he just hits the button and says "Flame on, flame on, flame on." We get to see that Reed's hard at work taking care of business. It's like, even though he has a kid, this man does not slow down. This is probably the biggest overachiever I've ever seen in my life. It's just like, do you sleep? Like, I know you don't sleep when you have a baby. I've been there, done that. Got guns, got straps. But like, this guy, it's just like, I made it. Like, you just made 4 spacesuits? You just made this bomb-proof what? Like, how? I mean, they do jump around in terms of time. There are time jumps in this movie. It's not set over the course of a day. It's set over the course of years. But it was just interesting that it's like, someone says, "When is this coming?" And he's like, "Oh, I made it." It's like, you made, like, what? But this is where so they're baby proofing the building, the house, but this is also when Reed Richards is baby proofing the planet. And it feels kind of similar to Iron Man, Tony Stark, trying to put his armor tech around the world to protect it. So you have these very intelligent scientists, geniuses, billionaire playboy philanthropists, who are wanting to protect the planet and put a coat of armor around it or baby proof it. And so that is a nice little wink of the eye, because it's already been revealed that the actor playing Tony Stark, Iron Man in the MCU, is going to be playing Doctor Doom, who's the main antagonist of the Fantastic Four. So I thought that was a nice little connection there. We hear about Puppet Master, these villains that are causing mayhem, and apparently Reed has, outed them or ousted them, alerted the police to their wrongdoings. But the list of villains is the Puppet Master, the Wizard, and Diablo. Those are the 3 that are mentioned by Reed, as the police are doing their thing. Puppet Master looks cool. Kind of a shaved head, kind of a thin white dude. And it's funny because people wanted John Malkovich to play Puppet Master. And I got to say, yes, because I saw a picture of Red Ghost and I was like, I don't really see John Malkovich in this. Oh, Red Ghost kind of looks like a bizarro Santa Claus. It's like bald up top with like long white hair, kind of like, if Hulk Hogan ever decided to have white hair instead of blonde. R.I.P. Hulk. Yeah, okay. I don't know if this is actually a picture of John Malkovich as Red Ghost, but I think he would work better as the Mad Thinker. The Wizard. If you look at a picture of the Wizard, it's kind of funny. Looks like a cross between Magneto from X-Men and the villain, or Turbo Man's arch enemy in Jingle All the Way, aka Dementor. So if you ever watched Jingle All the Way, I just watched it with my daughter for the first time this holiday season. I've seen it before, and it's got, Dementor's got like this big, huge helmet that you can it's see through, and you can see his brain. it's like picture Magneto's kind of iconic helmet, but just it extends upward. So yeah. And then Diablo's kind of, I don't know, interesting look. Not what I would have pictured if you said, draw Diablo. Just, what do you think Diablo looks like? I would not have pictured that. So at this point, Johnny says, let's eat. What time is it? To get the thing, Ben Grimm, to say it's clobbering time, which that's like a running gag throughout the film, is him trying to get Ben to say it's clobbering time. And it's like, in the payoff, it happens, and it's like, I guess that's a good setup and payoff. I guess. This is when Silver Surfer arrives. We have, because it's Halloween, you have kids dressed as the Thing and only the Thing, because they're like the only superheroes that exist, apparently. And Silver Surfer gave me T2 vibes. Robert Patrick as the T1000, I believe it is, with kind of that liquid metal look, alloy. Silver Surfer. I knew it was gonna trip me up, and it continues to trip me up. Silver Surfer asks, "Are you the protectors of this world?" Sue Storm says, "Yes, we are." Silver Surfer says, "Your planet is now marked for death. Your world will be consumed by the Devourer. There's nothing you can do to stop him, for he's a universal force as essential as the stars. Hold your loved ones close and speak the words you've been afraid to speak. Use this time to rejoice and celebrate, for your time is short. I herald his beginning. I herald your end. I herald Galactus." So what an entry. what a debut to Earth 828 for Silver Surfer. That is called making a first impression that sticks. Why does Galactus? Here's a question that I don't think was ever truly answered, other than he's just this massive entity that can't move very around or far or quickly. Why does Galactus need to send the Silver Surfer to announce that he's coming? Like, what's the purpose of that? I didn't really pick up on that, and I'm sure the comics addressed it, but I haven't read them. Like, why does he need someone to go to the planet and be like, "Hey, y'all, time's up. Hug your loved ones"? I just don't understand. Like, why not just go and fuck shit up and nom 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 nom, devour, eat, consume? Why do you need this little Silver Surfer to announce it to them? I just did not understand that. In a way, I guess it's nice. Like, hey, thanks for the heads up. But based on his track record, doesn't seem like that's ever fell short. But like, what did he do before the Silver Surfer? Or like, does he just get a new Silver Surfer every hundo years? It's like, you got to pass the torch. So we get a glimpse of the Silver Surfer's powers. Johnny Storm ends up catching up to her in space, grabs her surfboard. She speaks Zenlavian to him. He's entranced. Back at Reed's lab, Reed reveals that he was able to track her signature. And he says that these planets that Galactus has devoured are chosen with great care. Again, they did not really reveal, like, what is her decision tree? What is her decision-making process when she's choosing a planet to be devoured? Like, what are the criteria? What are the boxes that have to be checked? Like, I found that very interesting, and we never really got an answer to it. So this is where we reveal that Johnny is into the Silver Surfer, and we get to see Reed Richards load a new reel tape deck. I don't know what you call it, into the front of Herbie's face. So what we see is like Herbie's eyes, or like what we would think is his face. Apparently there are different things that he can load and unload, almost like a beta tape or film reel or VHS, eject, pop this out, pop this in, and he pops in the one that is for space. I thought that was pretty cool. Johnny Storm makes the connection that there's 23 of these recordings in this foreign language, and so he thinks that he's onto something, and Sue kind of agrees with him. They say that space is the greatest mystery of all, which is so true. So true. It scares me sometimes. Like, for sure scares me. There are times where I just get too, like, I'm trying to fall asleep at night and I'm like, so there's just, it just never ends. Like, it just, where does it end? Like, it just never ends. How is that fucking possible? Like, there's no end? What? So, Johnny was grilling Reed Richards about the new spacesuits, and you know, then Ben asked Reed about the spacesuits, and everyone agrees they look great. And we discover Reed is still beating himself up about the old spacesuits, which they wore during their first space trip to space when the accident happened. So he blames himself for developing the suits that allowed the cosmic rays to, effectively mutate them to give them their powers. Sue, Reed tells Sue she'll be the first pregnant woman in space, which she already knows. Very cool. Although I'm pretty sure when you're preggo, they tell you that you cannot fly. I thought that was an issue because I remember my ex-wife was pregnant in 2018 and we were invited to a wedding in Hawaii and we had to fly there, and I'm like, can we fly? I think it's up to a certain month. Like, at that point she was 5 months pregnant. I think once you get to like 8, they're like, do not fly. So interesting that it's like you're the first pregnant woman to go in space. And I'm trying to think of when they announced the pregnancy, and then now it's Halloween. Interesting. I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, if she's that pregnant, should she be going in space? But then I was like, oh, she's not like your regular standard issue human anymore, woman. She's now a woman with superpowers. So yeah, I guess it's cool. We get to see the launch of Excelsior, the Fantastic Four spaceship, which looks very similar to the ship that we saw in the mid-credits or post-credits scene of Thunderbolts, where they're like, what is that? And it's just like, it's coming in, and I think it has the 4 on the side, which would imply that it's from the Fantastic Four. But for some reason, I think that one had 4 rocket boosters, and the Excelsior ship in Fantastic Four First Steps has 3, which led people to think, oh, everyone wants to think it's the Fantastic Four ship, but it's actually. So yeah, and I think that's, I think people were, once they saw that mid-credits and end credit scene, at least me, and I don't know, I've watched a lot of YouTube videos about people speculating, like, okay, we're now introducing the Fantastic Four into the current MCU timeline, Earth 616 or whatever it is, and Fantastic Four First Steps will show how that happens. And it's like, after watching Fantastic Four First Steps, spoiler, does not happen. So, and this is, Marvel's been criticized for this. I mean, there's a whole YouTube video that I should watch, where it's like there's been so many mid-credits and post-credits scenes that just nothing happens with those in terms of like big reveal, big introduction to a new character or a different character or whatever. And it gets you all riled up and it gets you energized for what's coming next. And then it's just like, nope, nothing happened. Like, what? What happened to that thing with the thing? And listen, I love mid-credits and post-credits scenes, and I, the studios have to know that people love it. And so a lot of times they feel like compelled to throw something in there that they think will stoke people's interest and keep them interested and keep them talking until the next release. The problem is it's not necessarily a boy who cried wolf situation, But it's at some point you got to be like, you don't have, guys, you don't have to do this. You do not have to do this. You don't have to force it. And it does feel like, because I remember when we reviewed Thunderbolts, they definitely, the director said something to the effect of, yeah, they wanted us to include, like, I wasn't part of that mid-credits or post-credits scene. I think someone else might have shot it, or he's like, yeah, they just came on set one day and they're like, hey, can we do this one little thing real quick? And it's like, okay. So it's like, it was not this long gestating idea that they wove into. It's like, nope, they basically were like, hey, we're going to do this thing and we want to tag it on to the end. And it's like, is that, is that going to be another one of those mid credits or post credits scenes where it's just, it doesn't go anywhere? There's no connection to anything. It's like, okay. And then, of course, you had the Avengers Doomsday trailer leak, which I still have not watched because there are spoilers in it. And I'm like, what kind of spoilers? Can we just, is it the spoilers that I know or is it the spoilers I don't know? I think it's pretty sure it's the spoilers I know. But I still want to wait for the nice high res, high def, high HQ 4K version. I don't want to do the bootleg version from the theater. So the Excelsior rocket was named after the catchphrase of Marvel founder Stan Lee. If you've ever watched like Robot Chicken, whenever Stan Lee's on it, he always says Excelsior. In the comics, the rocket was actually named Marvel 1. Ship is similar to what we saw in the post-credits scene in Thunderbolts. In space, the ship approaches an engine similar to what we saw in Star Wars Ahsoka. So if you've ever seen that TV show on Disney Plus, when they were doing, there was when they had to, the one ship had to go the speed of light or something like that. There was this massive ring, and they had to like line up with the ring or go through the ring or something to that effect. I vividly remember that scene. Not the same exact look as that, but similar idea premise that you have this like thing sitting out there, and then you kind of line up and go through it and connect with it, and then you can go faster than light. FTL navigation, faster than light. The planet is called LHS 275 that they're going to. And Ben asks if Galactus is a space dragon because they'd never seen him before. And Johnny quietly says, cool. Thought that was funny. They approach, by the way, when they're traveling faster than light, they're able to just kind of float in the ship. That is some advanced ass technology. I never, because at least when someone goes to light speed in Star Wars, it's like there's that little jolt where they get knocked back a little bit. But I don't know. I guess, yeah. It also, that was another thing that when they were in not a wormhole. Is it a wormhole? I guess it is a wormhole. When they're traveling faster than light, outside the ship, it looks fairly similar to when they go light speed in Star Wars Ahsoka. So, they see a massive ship coming out of the planet. Sue hides the Excelsior ship. The planet is totally destroyed. Reed notes that the planet is 13% larger than Earth, just to give people a sense of like, okay, this is not some scrawny, this ain't no Pluto, okay? This ain't no rinky-dink moon-sized planet. This is bigger than Earth. They get pulled in by a tractor beam. The crew is scanned. Light shines on Sue's pregnant belly, which foreshadows what the big crux of the film is going to be. Silver Surfer enters the ship, the most seamless entry ever. Like, no sound, no friction, just just like, are you a ghost? Silver Surfer says, quote, you should not have come. I think this is kind of a clue that she has a conscience, right? That she's not pure evil, not all evil. It's not like, oh, you done fucked up now. It's not like, oh, you guys are going to get it. It's just like, you should not have come. Typically anytime you hear that from an antagonist, they usually, they're not all bad. There's a little Q&A session with the Silver Surfer en route to Galactus where Johnny is asking her questions. We find out that the Silver Surfer chooses planets for Galactus. Again, how does she choose? What goes into that process? Johnny asks what she meant when he caught her in space. She says it's a blessing. That means die with yours. He asks if the surfboard is part of her body, which is something he gets very hung up on. And I was just like, okay. Galactus is ginormous. We get a wide shot of him to see the scope and scale of how large he truly is. Everyone else looks like ants around him. And Galactus says he has this relentless, eternal hunger, and he was once like you. He notes that the child, so he knows that Sue is pregnant, and he says the child, he hungers, and so he'll spare Earth in exchange for the child. Because the child possesses the power cosmic and will ultimately take over for Galactus, so Galactus can finally find peace and rest. Yeah, man. I mean, billions of years of devouring planets, that's going to get old after a little bit. Like, let's just, I've had my run. It's been a good run, good billion years. I cannot imagine being a billion years old. You'd be such a crotchety old fuck with the most boomer ticks. His eye glows, and it's not we see the glow where it's like we see it just kind of the whole eye socket is the one color, but this is like we can actually see his like retina and iris, the structure of the eye. I was gonna say urethra, definitely not it, dude. But his eye glows, and Sue ends up going to labor. I did not know or realize that was happening, that he was inducing her labor. Just did not pick up on that. That's on me. But yeah, inducing her labor. I don't know how many months along she was. So that's why I was like, why is she allowed in space? And then also, if he's inducing her labor and she was not was going to space not thinking she was going to give birth, was not close to giving birth, then that would mean that the child would be born premature, right? But I guess not. Johnny Storm attacks Galactus, and the Silver Surfer rides the Gnar tubular style on Johnny's flames. Such a good visual, so cool. And the lava forms like a barrel or a tunnel that you would see in like a surfing documentary. It was just GoPro footage. It was just so good. Silver Surfer knocks out Ben and then Johnny and Reed, but then Sue Storm is able to toss her aside. And this is another hint that Sue is the most powerful of the four. Right before the FTL jump, Silver Surfer almost grabs the baby through Sue's stomach. My God, what a sight that would have been. She was able to pull the baby just straight out of Sue. Like, what? That's in the R-rated version, NC-17. Subscribe to the Patreon. Silver Surfer rides the Gnar of the wormhole. I thought that was also pretty slick. When they're going faster than light, you can see her riding the Gnar. And I love Johnny's quote about like, you want me to kill sexy aliens? So funny. She rides the Gnar through the belt of debris around that star. We get the quote, there's time dilation, and then Sue says, more than mine. Thought that was a clever line. Reed wants Sue to make the ship invisible, and in doing so creates a black hole that Silver Surfer is sucked into. For me, this looked not a lot, but very similar to what happens to the Flash in The Flash, 2023's The Flash with Ezra Miller, when he's time traveling and running, where it's like his face gets stretched. He's going so fast. They create a slingshot effect that allows them to hurtle back towards Earth. So they keep asking, like, what if the baby's a monster? What if the baby's a monster? They get super scared, but they end up Sue ends up giving birth in low gravity. She's floating, trying to push. Like, I wonder. I would love to like get an astronaut's take on that. Like, is giving birth in lower gravity better or worse than in our gravity? Like, giving birth in low gravity in a ship traveling faster than light, is that better or worse than the normal birthing experience? And I gotta say, pretty clean birth. There wasn't a ton of blood or goo or plasma or gack floating anywhere. So, I think they covered that and how it should have ended on YouTube. If you want to check that out, it's the cleanest birth ever. In the comics, Franklin Richards was originally an Omega level mutant, so powerful that in the 1990s he famously created an entire universe called Heroes Reborn for those killed fighting Onslaught, which is the combination of Professor X and Magneto. And I gotta say, that's a badass character. And if that's where we're heading, hell yeah. We'll get there in the year 2144. During the X-Men's Krakoa arc, this was later retconned with the release of issue 26 from the 2023 Fantastic Four comic book series, to where he is a human mutate like his family, which refers to superpowered humans that are non-mutants. Whereas mutants are born with the X gene, the human mutate powers are from an actual mutation. But we'll get to whether or not that's the case with this Franklin in this here story, in this here movie. So they return from space. It's kind of a similar landing. The Excelsior lands like very similar to what you'd see from SpaceX or the Falcon X or whatever. Elon Musk's space rockets that he shoots off out there in the ether. There's a press conference. Reed reveals that Galactus's demand, and so a lot of the reporters and members of the press are asking, are we safe? Or no, this was where it's like, the typical like reporters shouting over each other. It's like, guys, no one can hear anything that any of you are saying. Why do you guys do that? But I love that there's one reporter that just goes, just answer this. And they all shut up. It's like, wait, what? That can work? Why didn't any of you do that? Just answer this. Are we safe? And that's when Reed Richards says, I don't know. And you can kind of see, what's her name? Lynn Nichols, played by Sarah Niles, who's kind of the chief of staff of the Future Foundation, kind of been like, could have used a better answer there. Like, we need this PR. We need to sit down with PR. Can Galactus only control Silver Surfer? So we do see that, like, there's that one quick shot of, we see Silver Surfer hovering in front of Galactus on her surfboard, but then he kind of pulls her up and it looks like he's stretching her using some kind of Jedi mind trick shit. And I was like, why didn't he do that before to the Fantastic Four? Is it because she's made out of this alloy polymer thing and he's able to control that? I don't know. Back at Reed's lab, he talks about Archimedes and the law of levers. Give me a lever and a place to put it, and I'll move the earth. There's a great exchange between Sue and Johnny where she says, he thinks the baby actually sleeps. And then Johnny says, well, it's not like you chose this thing. It's like, yeah, you got to know what you're getting into, dude. He is able to translate a sentence, which is an incredible breakthrough that, typically would be reserved for someone like Reed Richards. So it's cool that they were, they wanted to see that, or they wanted to show that Johnny was more than just a good-looking stud. Reed scans Franklin, analyzes a compound. He's hard at work trying to figure out if there's anything wrong with the baby, which, yeah, I mean, like, that's parenthood. It's typical for a new parent, like, just looking, combing and scouring the baby for deficiencies and weaknesses and Googling it and calling hotlines and writing into Dear Abby. I get to see news reports about Galactus passing Jupiter. I love that they had a little short clip about there being a Galactus cult. So funny. And then there being riots. Not funny in like funny meaning like just fairly realistic and accurate. Like you're gonna not everyone's gonna have the same reaction to this news, right? You're gonna have people that are gonna riot. You're gonna have people that form a cult. So I thought that was very appropriate. This was this is where it got a little goofy for me, where Ben Grimm is like walking down this dark alley at night, and because they're conserving power, it's very dark, and you just see like a bunch of dudes kind of jogging past Ben, who's walking, and the one guy says, "What about us?" And they're all like, the rest of the group is like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." And it's just like, wait, and he says, "What about us? We got families too." And it's like, okay, wait. So are you guys like? I didn't think jogging became a thing until the '80s. So are you guys just are you running home because there's a curfew? Like you're not jogging for physical fitness. Where are you running to? Why are you running? Like I just did not felt like out of place and weird. But again, it's to like hammer it home that like there's this massive decision that they have to make, and it affects the entire planet. There's a loud crowd that is gathered outside their building down below. This is the scene where really, whew, man, cuts you deep. Where Reed Richards says what they're doing is mathematical, ethical, and available. I didn't fully understand that quote. You know, I think he was attributing more, he's giving them more credit than was due, but that really upset Sue Storm. And then that's when Franklin starts crying. And Sue kind of gets pissed at him. And Reed says, "It is my job to think terrible things. I don't dream. I don't wonder. I invite the worst possible thing into my head to figure out how to hurt them before they hurt anybody else." And Sue Storm says, "And you know what? Sometimes you being you hurts me." Ouch, dude. Fucking ouch. That hurt me. I'm not even fucking there. I'm not even in the story. I'm just watching, observer, third party. And that hurt me, cut me to the core. Because I've been there, man. I've had that kind of discussion, not necessarily an argument, but where it's just like, you being you hurts me. It's like, but never change, right? Or people change. Do you still love me? Like, I don't know. It just feels like, damn, you've been holding that in the chamber, huh? Got that locked and loaded? Funny, I don't have anything on my end to fire at you. Weird how that worked. Sue ends up going out to speak to the crowd with Franklin in her arms. She reveals her parents. She reveals that her and Johnny's parents, because they are siblings, were in a car crash. The father survived and the mother didn't. And then she, really hammers home the theme of family. Family is fighting for something bigger than yourself and connecting with something bigger than yourself. It's bigger than yourself. So that's the kind of motif of the movie, is not just the Fantastic Four family getting bigger with Franklin, but also with the Fantastic Four essentially adopting the planet as their family, or at least encouraging the planet to adopt them as part of their family. And this is where Sue says, "I'm not sacrificing my son for this planet, but I won't sacrifice this planet for my son." And then she gives the quote that ultimately ignites Reed Richards' idea. She says, "My mother used to say a mother would move heaven and earth for her child. So move Earth to a place that Galactus will never find us." And so as I'm watching it, I'm thinking, oh, now it's all coming together. It's finally the clouds have parted and we can see clearly now the rain is gone. All I'm thinking, we now make the connection from, this is where they try to move the planet Earth, their Earth, to another part of their universe, but end up going into the official MCU timeline, Earth 616 or whatever it is. So I figured, oh, this is where it happens. This is where it's going to happen. Like, oh. And, well, I don't want to give anything away, but you can tell them on my tone. They end up putting teleportation bridges across the globe. Again, just bigger in scale than what we saw in Reed's lab, where he teleported the egg from one side of the room to the other. The teleportation bridges across the globe will move the Earth to a new solar system. That's what's we're gonna. And I mean, this is what is gonna. I'm very confident that that is what is gonna end up happening with us in real life. Like, you know, we know that the sun is going to die out. I forget when. I don't know if it's going to be thousands of years or millions of years, but it's going to eventually die out and then we're fucked, right? So it's like, we know that's coming. Who is working on the technology to teleport our planet to a new solar system? I mean, you think your morning commute is rough. Thinking about trying to move a freaking planet. Yowza. We get another report that Galactus is passing Mars. And this is the part where it was tough to suspend my disbelief. Because the teleportation bridges take up too much power, right? Even just moving the egg across the room, the entire power grid in New York City goes out. Or at least in their building. So they somehow convince the entire planet to turn off every light switch and conserve power at night? Yeah, right, dude. You think about what happened during COVID, a global pandemic. We couldn't get anyone to wear a fucking mask. And I mean, like, yeah, there were huge swaths of people and groups of people that were trying to follow orders and abide and fall in line and, you know, try to make the world a safer place by following guidelines. But for like every 2 to 3 people, maybe 4 or 5 people that were doing it, there were another 2 to 3 that, you know, it wasn't 50 to 50, 1 to 1, but like, goddamn, there was such a huge minority of people that were not wearing masks and coughing on people and going to clubs and like, you know, it's just like, and ultimately, you know, we still don't, I don't know, but it's just funny that, oh yeah, sure, you convinced the whole planet to do that, to turn off their lights and conserve power. Sure. We couldn't even come together during COVID. I just cannot imagine that actually working. The beard thing was weird. You know, where it's like Ben's trying to shave himself, the lights go off, and, you know, he's stuck with a beard, and I mean, he looked good. It's just, that's what I'm getting at with Ben Grimm in this movie. It's just like it's like they needed to get him involved somehow, and they didn't have too strong of a storyline. Johnny Storm is very strong. Sue and Reed, very strong. Ben's kind of like, it's like they want him to have his own storyline, and they're just giving him things. Like, we're going to give you a love interest that you talk to twice, and it's like, okay. And then we're going to give you a beard. Okay. It's like they just need to give him some kind of screen time because they know he's important and that people love him. But, like, we're not going to give him any actionable. So for me, that was like the shortcoming. Like, as enjoyable as Ben Grimm is, which I'm not even saying he's my favorite. Anywho. Reed Richards says to Franklin, I don't want you to... You know, so this quote really hits home, you know, as a dad. And I think this is on par with Clark Kent's dad's kind of speech monologue in the James Gunn Superman, where it's like kind of just really, they really captured what parenthood and parenting is. So Reed Richards says this to Franklin. Again, Franklin's a baby. Who knows if he understands this shit, but I don't want you to be like me. There's something wrong with me. Always has been. The more I look at you, the less I know. And the less I know, the more scared I am. So you know what? I'm not going to look anymore. I'm going to let you tell me who you are. So I thought that was very poignant. Right, some really great writing right there. I think it was interesting that once we see Galactus's ship pass the moon, there's a future Foundation flag on the moon, not a United States of America flag. So again, just a reminder that we're not in our current timeline of the, everything that happened on our Earth. This is a different Earth, different timeline. So we have the countdown to moving Earth, where they have to sync up with all the bridges around the world. And then that's when the Silver Surfer comes in and starts destroying bridges. I really like the visual of the grids disappearing. Can you kind of see like all of a sudden this force field just slowly, it's not withering. It's just like, oh boy, what would I compare it to? I can't think of it. I just love that visual. It was very cool. Johnny then fights the Silver Surfer and then ends up playing the recordings to catch her attention. The recordings reveal that Silver Surfer's name is Shalal Bal. Zen La is her home. She was a scientist or astronomer, and she made a deal with Galactus to be his scout to save her own planet. So she ended up sacrificing herself to become the scout so that Zen La could continue existing and not be devoured. I really like the shot of her, Silver Surfer, in front of the moon. I thought that was very cool. It's just like, this is where Johnny's like, don't take the baby, take me. He's like dying to sacrifice himself. And I guess that's a product of, because he's not, I think in the comics, he's supposed to be like 18 to 22 years old. And I think even in the 2005 and 2007 versions, he was younger. So maybe not necessarily 18 to 22, but like 25. In this movie, it seems like he's in his late 20s, early 30s. So he's not like this teeny bop or teen idol rendition of Johnny Storm that we're kind of used to. He's in a more grown-up space where it's like he wants to be taken more seriously. And how do you become more respected as an adult? Well, it's like you find a partner, you settle down, you create a family, you get a job, blah, 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 blah. So I guess that's part of it. Part of his journey is like, oh, I want to be seen as this person that is not little Johnny anymore. It's not like teeny bopper, teen idol Johnny. I want to take that next step and become Jonathan. Jonathan Storm. And so I don't know, he's dying to sacrifice himself. He's just dying to prove himself, really, and this is where Reed decides, after the bridges are destroyed, most of the bridges, so the bridge in New York is not destroyed in Times Square, he says, we need to bring Galactus here. So they're going to move, instead of moving the Earth away from Galactus, they're going to move Galactus away from the Earth. He, works out the formula, the equation, and he says he can keep the portal open for 37 seconds. And they want to use the boy as bait. The boy, my boy. Interesting, they kept saying the boy. They didn't say the baby. I mean, it's a baby. It's a baby. But we're going to use the boy as bait. And we get Sue has a very strong reaction to this, where Reed is, it's obvious that Reed wants to use the baby as bait. Like it's in his head. He keeps looking at the baby. It's like he can't think of anything else. And this is where it comes back, where he tries to, and this is like an ongoing thing with Reed, where it's like he knows the answer and he knows what needs to happen, but he keeps saying, no, I can figure it out. Like, I'll figure it out. The aloe iodine, is it really for his shoulder? Is it really for Sue? Is it like using the baby as bait? Like, I'm trying to think of another example, but it's like it's like in his head, he knows what needs to happen, but he keeps saying things out loud that, because he knows that other people are not going to be on board with it, which I get, it's understandable, but this is when Sue kind of snaps on him and says, I know. So, like, is that the hint of malice that Vanessa Kirby mentioned when she was talking about, this version of Sue Storm? Like, she didn't want it to be a goody two shoes sweet mother. She wanted it to be a hint of malice there. Like, that felt like a hint of malice. Like, I know. Like, it was just very strong and visceral. And of course, Reed just makes a bomb-proof, shock-proof, radiation-proof baby carrier. Like, I just whip that up real quick. Just toss that in the microwave for 30 seconds and you're done. Add a sprinkle of water. Ben points out that the destruction will happen, and so Sue strikes a deal with the mole man, so they get everyone to evacuate. Everyone evacuated from the city. Like, it's just wishful thinking across the board. Everyone's going to turn off their lights to conserve power. Sure. Everyone's going to evacuate when they're ordered to go to subterranean. Sure. It's just that's where it does not feel real at all. It's like, all right. I mean, you think about like Hurricane Katrina or a lot of these, when these natural disasters happen and there's just warnings upon warnings upon warnings, must evacuate. And people are like, I ain't going nowhere. Fucking fake news. Like, all right. As Galactus's ship arrives, it's snowing, so I'd imagine this is closer to Christmas time in the city. We get to see Galactus unplug. It's kind of reminiscent of, I didn't want to say Predator, but a little bit of Vecna from Stranger Things season 4, where it's like you get these things that plug into you. Like for Vecna, it was the kind of tentacle looking things. Here it's mechanical tentacles, and I guess they are like pouring hot lava into him or something like that to power him up. But so after he unplugs like that, his parts start to realign, and it reminded me of the Transformers. I thought that was pretty interesting. And then when he jumps from his ship into the water outside the city or off of the city, we get he's kind of this. I mean, he basically is the size of Godzilla, and so that kind of made me think of Godzilla when he jumped in the water and he's approaching the city. He emerges onto the land to the destroyed city, but before he does that, he takes a look at the Statue of Liberty, which I don't know if this is if they did not realize that they were doing this or if this was a little subtle wink and nod Easter egg, but he looks at the Statue of Liberty and then he walks through the streets of New York City just like the Statue of Liberty did in Ghostbusters 2. So I thought that was interesting because he looks at the Statue of Liberty. I'm like, what does that mean? And then he ends up going on land and walking. We get this. I mean, it's almost not the same exact shot, but you remember in Ghostbusters 2, we see the shot of the Statue of Liberty's foot, big foot, and her legs as she's walking by, almost like not the flip side, or the opposite of Ghostbusters 1, where you see the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, you just see the top of his head bobbing down the street. This in Ghostbusters 2, you see her feet and her legs moving down the street. And then in Fantastic Four, First Steps, we see Galactus's feet moving through the city. So I thought that was, I don't know if that was intentional or what, but Johnny Storm ends up burning Galactus's eyes, and they are able to switch out Franklin for a decoy. Galactus stops short of tripping the wire to trigger the bridge. What does that remind me of? Is it Predator yet again? I got Predator on the brain, you guys. Big time. But it feels like Predator, in the original Predator in 1987, where Arnold's like, come on, kill me. Do it now. Kill me. I'm here. Do it now. I can do better than that. Get me on a good Saturday night when I'm a little more saucy. And the Predator's kind of his mandibles expand, and he's about to pounce and attack, and then he kind of sees out of his corners of the eye these sharp, razor sharp teeth or bones or whatever, and then he goes around the booby trap that Arnold set up. That feels a little bit like that with Galactus not tripping the wire. Galactus then is on fire. Johnny sets him on fire, which, again, is that a callback to the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man in Ghostbusters 1, where they set the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man on fire, and you see him trying to climb the building as he's completely engulfed in flames and melting. Galactus then throws Ben into space. Johnny flies after him and saves him. Galactus ends up capturing Reed like, a master. Like, my brother-in-law is really good at this. Like, they typically in the summer will always there's always a fly in the house, just buzzing around and pissing people off and annoying everyone. My brother-in-law is always quick enough to capture it. And what is that from? Bruce Lee, Enter the Dragon, where he's able to catch a fly with his bare hand. I actually did it the other day. I was very happy with myself. But that's what this was like with Galactus. He was just like caught Reed like a bug in his hand and then starts stretching out Reed like he's playing with a Stretch Armstrong. And at first I was like, this doesn't look right. I wasn't too crazy about the CGI and visual effects around his stretching ability. It's like it didn't look too good. Ironically, you watch the trailer from the 1994 Fantastic Four, and I don't know what it is. I think I just love practical effects because you see his arm stretching, and it's like that looks realer than what I'm seeing here. So it wasn't totally sold on it until he's stretching out Reed and really stretching out Reed, and then it feels real. That's when the stretching is like, oh, you start to see like the clothes start to tear a little bit, and you can really see the anguish on Reed's face. So Pedro Pascal's face. I thought that's the most realistic that the stretching looked like. Because otherwise, I mean, there's a scene where, Reed's stretching and using like the falling rocks or the falling parts of the building as like stepping stones as he's moving up towards Galactus. And I was like, this is almost like the Flash again, where like you remember in the beginning of the movie when he's trying to save all those CGI babies. Oh. And then finally we get Johnny Storm riding on the back of Ben Grimm, saying, "What time is it, Ben?" "No." "What time is it, Ben?" "No, Johnny." "Say it." "I don't want to." "Say it." "It's clobbering time." I don't know. Maybe I'm coming around on that. I did get a little goosebumps when he said it. It's like, why are you so averse to saying it? It's almost like he's ashamed of that expression. He's like, oh, they'd only say it in the cartoon. I wonder, I think that would have been a cool like mid-credits or post-credit scene where it's like, actually he used to say it like all the time and thought it was like cool. And then all of a sudden he saw himself say it on the cartoon. He's like, I got to stop saying that. Like, I thought that would have been a cool mid-credits or post-credit scene. But instead we got that. I mean, it's still a cool thing to say, dude. Better than flame on. That shit is super popular at Rawhide, Midtown West. The baby Franklin floating in front of Galactus, great shot. That was we now have talked about Silver Surfer hovering in front of Galactus. Then we see Silver Surfer hovering in front of the moon. And then we see Franklin hovering in front of Galactus. It's just like those shots, they kept popping up. And I'm wondering if there's like a subconscious connection there. This sequence where Sue is using her force field powers to push Galactus into the open portal. I mean, whoa, dude. Even Reed's watching it like, holy shit. My wife is a boss, and I got a little fear boner right now. I am scared pantsless, but heavily aroused. In heels, no less. I love that they like focus in on her feet. Obviously her feet, because like she's getting pushed back and then she's kind of pressing forward. Like there's a very tug of war back and forth happening. And so they want to emphasize that by, having the shot of her feet as she's trying to get, a grip. But like, I love that she's still wearing the little heels, little lifts, not like, stilettos like on Malice. If we ever get to see Vanessa Kirby as Malice, dude, my God, take me to jail. Watch Mojo had this moment at number 34 on their top 50 Marvel moments that left us speechless. And I have to agree. A very cool sequence. Johnny attempts to sacrifice himself, shocker, to give Galactus the final push into the portal, but is stopped by Shalabal, Silver Surfer. She pushes Galactus into the portal herself, and it closes behind them. But for Sue, the final push kills her, takes all her power away. Because Reed's like, no, you got to stop. Sue, stop. No. Because he knows what's about to happen. And so that final push kills her dead. And Galactus appears to fall into the portal. But then, of course, you have that one last hurrah for Galactus as he reaches back through the portal to try and get through. And that's when, with 11 seconds left, Johnny is about to sacrifice himself and says, tells Reed, tell Franklin Uncle Johnny loves him or something like that. Knocked aside by Silver Surfer. So when Sue is laying on the ground, her legs are crossed like a 4, which is a nice little subtle touch. And that's when Reed, is trying to do the staying alive, CPR. I think it's 15. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Do that for 15, and then 2 breaths. I didn't see him really doing 2 breaths. I think he did 1 breath. But I think you're supposed to do breath, hold the nose, tilt. I was thinking about that. Like, if push comes to shove, I have not done CPR since junior, senior year in high school. So we're talking 1997, 1998. And I was thinking in that moment, I was like, oh, fuck, dude, if I had to do CPR right now, I don't think I could do it. Like, I know it. It's crazy how that happened 30 goddamn years ago, just about. But yet, I still remember how many 15 chest pumps, blah, blah, blah. I know where to go in the chest. I know tilt, pinch nose, tilt back, 2. But I have not done it on an actual human being. And my God. Have I ever done the Heimlich on someone? Great question. Tune in next week. So, it's not looking good for your girl, Sue. And then Reed places Franklin on top of her to lay down belly to belly. And that's when Franklin brings her back to life. And when he does, you get to see her fingers twitch, which I thought was great. She kind of has that like comes alive, and you see in her eyes, it wasn't exactly the same glow that we saw like Galactus's default eye glow mode, not when he's like trying to induce labor, but like when he's just like chilling. It wasn't like that, but her eyes glow. It almost looked like a miniature galaxy in each eyeball. Like it was like starry. So I'm wondering if he, in bringing her to life, brought to life like a universe within her or something. I don't know. I love that the baby started clapping. It just did the natural like baby clap. So funny. And then, Sue saying to Reed, he's not us, he's more. And then we see the people resurface from Subterranea. And, we pretty much started with Ted Gilbert on the Ted Gilbert Show, so why not end with Ted Gilbert on the Ted Gilbert Show? I thought it was a really cool bookend to the movie. And as he's introducing them, they receive an alert and they have to bolt. And the child seat gag, yeah, it was good. Not like laugh out loud funny, but it's like, yeah, I've been there, man. Just trying to install a child seat or baby seat is just the worst. It cannot be done under an hour. How many superheroes does it take to install a child seat? 3. I thought, the music is by Michael Giacchino, who's well known, well respected, world renowned. I believe he's an Oscar winner. I think he's done some Quentin Tarantino movies. He's just amazing. And I thought the music in this movie was pretty great. I always find myself humming the theme. It's like, we fast forward to 4 years later. Franklin is, and that's where, Sue's on the couch reading to Franklin a book. I forget what book she was reading. I think it was The Caterpillar by Eric Carle, which I've read too. Very well-known book, popular book that I used to read to Bree, my daughter, but no more in that she's a little bit on the older side. Gets done with that book. There's a nice little gag where Herbie's like, how about this? And it's a book of like the origin of the human species or physics or something like that. This thick ass like tome of advanced science and literature. And she ends up getting A Fly Goes By, which I meant to do research on for this here episode, because I think A Fly Goes By they picked that book for a reason, for her to read to him. And as she's coming back to Franklin, we start to see her left hand kind of going into attack mode where she's prepping to use her force field powers. And that's when she sees Franklin reaching up and touching the face of a person in a green cloak and holding his mask in his left hand. So the mask is off, and people have been following the situation know that that's Doctor Doom. So Franklin's feeling the face of Doctor Doom, who has his mask off, and then that's when we see a Fantastic Four will return in Avengers Doomsday. So what are the top fan questions about Fantastic Four: The First Steps? We can go through these quickly, I think. Is Galactus really gone or just getting started? I mean, that's such an obvious question, dude. I mean, obvious answer. He's not gone. There's no way he's really gone. He's just getting started. Definitely not defeated. I think it's just he's... some suspect Marvel's planning to thread him through the next phase like they did with Thanos. Yeah, I think he's just kind of this ever-present threat. And he's not, and if he has this insatiable hunger to devour planets, and he has not joined Weight Watchers or Jenny Craig, he has not done any GLP-1s, Ozempic, like he's got an eating disorder, right? So like, I don't think that's gonna quit over billions of years. He's gonna keep at it until someone takes over his stead. What was the deal with Julia Garner's character? Well, this was interesting. Some fan theories include that she is Franklin Storm in disguise. Say what now? A multiverse agent, which is intriguing, or possibly even Valeria Richards or a future version of Sue. Franklin Storm in disguise is interesting. It's like, if you don't want people to know that you're Franklin from the future, disguise yourself as a very sexy lady, a sexy alien. Valeria Richards is very interesting to me because we've got a taste of Franklin Richards. If you're a comic book reader, there's Valeria Richards is going to be in the mix at some point. A future version of Sue is also interesting, although... I mean, they're close enough where you could make that connection where it's like stuff could happen, but I'm not ruling it out, but I'm not 100% in on that. Was the Fantastic Four was the final Fantasy Four pulled from the past into the current MCU? No, not yet. We thought that was going to happen here, and it didn't. But it seems like that has to be like one of the first events in Avengers Doomsday. That's probably the inciting incident, if I had to guess. Will Kang of the TVA show up in a future crossover? I mean, it's tough because of what's happened with Jonathan Majors and all his legal troubles. So, but that's not to say that they couldn't, I think the way that they have positioned Kang and presented Kang, it's like, yeah, there's 1,000 Kangs and they all kind of look like Jonathan Majors, but it's like, it doesn't have to look like Jonathan Majors. That's just the kind of being or entity that Kang is. TVA, I have to imagine, is going to show up a lot, dude. A lot. TVA is the common thread, I would think. Why did the Silver Surfer choose to help the Fantastic Four? It has a guilt, deeper bond with humanity, sense a larger threat than Galactus. Could she become a recurring cosmic ally like Loki? Which I dig that angle. Like if her and Loki get together at some point, because Loki's basically holding the shit down on that throne for the multiverse. Um, Again, why did she pick Earth? Why is she picking these planets, dude? That has like, does the planet have to have? Does it have to be populated, or can he just eat the planet? Does that make sense? Like, why is she picking planets with people on it? Like, why not just pick planets that don't have people? I guess because they can't sustain life and they're not as nutritious, not as rich with minerals and vitamins. I don't know. Very interesting to think about. Is this the best live action Fantastic Four yet? Yeah. Or is it just the best looking? Also the best looking. I think the plot was too safe. Other hail it as the definitive Fantastic Four. Emotional weight and tone. Yeah, I mean it's definitely the best. I think. Um, I think it's interesting that people are like walking back their initial opinions upon rewatch and saying, not so much. It's like, oh, okay. I mean, you don't think this is a great stepping stone into what's going to happen next? Okay. All right. I guess people were hoping for more of a runway into Doomsday, where it's like, okay, you get, like, I think for most people, or at least myself, the thought was, okay, in the previews, in the trailers, we're going to see Galactus, we're going to see Silver Surfer. That's going to occupy maybe the first half of the film. And then the midpoint twist is going to be, the discovery of this other timeline or dimension or universe with hints of Doom. And instead, we went an entire movie of just Galactus and Silver Surfer with just a brief shot of Doom and just a text on screen tag will return in Doomsday. It's like, I can see how people can be really disappointed by that. I wasn't really disappointed by it. But I did think that they were going to ramp up a little bit more towards Doomsday in if not the second half, then maybe the last act of this movie. Did Ben Grimm, the Thing, steal the show? Fans love the depth and humor he brought to Ben Grimm. Some are calling for a solo project, a Disney Plus prequel or side story. I don't think he'll get his own movie. I don't think he's gonna get a prequel. I mean, I could see them doing a special, kind of like what was it, Werewolf by Night or something like that, like a 50-minute, really good episode of television where it's like it doesn't need to be an entire series. How will the Fantastic Four fit into the larger MCU now? Everyone wants to know. Will they meet Spider-Man? Will Reed be part of the next Illuminati lineup? Could the team be the link to the next big villain? Well, yeah. Dr. Doom, dude. It's right there in the title, Doomsday. That's the story. That's the plot. Those are the fan questions. In terms of box office domestically, it is currently 7th. It's in the top 10 at number 7. It is just below Sinners and right above the How to Train Your Dragon live action remake. 2 spots above Zootopia 2, but I think that should change pretty soon because Zootopia 2 is just doing bank. Jurassic World Rebirth did better than this domestically. So interesting. I mean, this Fantastic Four First Steps did better than Captain America Brave New World. Did not do as well as Superman, but just interesting that it would perform worse than Sinners domestically and worse than Jurassic World Rebirth. But yet no one, that movie was all about how people don't care about dinosaurs anymore. They don't care about dinosaurs anymore, yet it's Did 339 million fucking dollars in the United States of America, dude. Okay. Worldwide, Fantastic Four, First Steps, came in at 11th, just out of the top 10. Zootopia 2 was second. So while it did 260 million in the US, Zootopia 2 did $879 million in foreign territories. 77% of its total box office gross came from foreign territories. That is wild. Jurassic World Rebirth, number 5, 868 million worldwide, with 529 million coming in foreign markets. And F1 the movie outperformed Superman, Mission Impossible: Final Reckoning, and Fantastic Four: First Steps, and Wicked for Good in worldwide box office. That's crazy. F1 the movie did 189 million domestically and 442 million in international markets. 70% of its box office came from international. So I assume Warner must be disappointed in the foreign box office receipts for Superman. 262 million, only 42% of its total gross. So Mission Impossible: Final Reckoning did really good internationally. 401 million, 67% of its take. And, it's pretty much split 50-50 with Fantastic Four. 274 domestically, 247 worldwide. So, freaking weapons, dude. Freaking weapons. So, how does the budget for Fantastic Four: First Steps compared to the other Fantastic Four films? This is not including, I don't think this is including 1994. Yeah, it's not including 1994 because it never went into a theater. The budget for Fantastic Four: First Steps was $200 million, and that does not include $170 million in marketing. And the budget for Fantastic Four in 2005, so it did worldwide, it did $521 million. About $522 million it did worldwide, Fantastic Four, in box office, with a budget around $200 million. So it made money, decent chunk of change. The budget for Fantastic Four 2005 was $100 million in 2005, which, when you adjust for inflation, was $163 million. The worldwide gross for Fantastic Four 05 was $333 million, which, if you adjust for inflation, is $544 million. So if you adjust for inflation, it made more money at the box office than worldwide than Fantastic Four: First Steps. Rise of the Silver Surfer in 07 had a budget of $130 million, which, when you adjust for inflation, is about equal to what First Steps' budget was, $200 million. And its worldwide gross was $300 million in 07. When you adjust for inflation, is $468. So First Steps outperformed Rise of the Silver Surfer. And then 2015's Fantastic Four had a budget of $120 million, which, when you adjust for inflation, is about $163 million, which is about equivalent to what the budget was when you adjust for inflation for the 05 Fantastic Four. And the global box office for 2015, Fantastic Four was $167 million, which is $227 million when you adjust for inflation. Not quite as profitable as Fantastic Four 2005, which is really interesting, man. Interesting. Critically, let's look at the critical reception. Metacritic summarized the critical response as generally favorable based on a weighted average score of 65 out of 100 from 54 critics. Audiences polled by CinemaScore gave the film an average grade of A- on an A+ to F scale. Post-Track reported 93% of audience members gave the film a positive score, with 70% saying they would definitely recommend it. I definitely recommend it. I'm amongst the 70%. It currently has a 6.9 out of 10 on IMDb, which feels low because I gave it an 8. I would argue that it depends on the day. Some days I'm going to say it's a 7.8, 7.9. Other days I'm going to say it's an 8.1, 8.2, possibly an 8.3. On Rotten Tomatoes, 86% of all critics gave it a good review, while 79% of top critics gave it a favorable review. Critics' consensus is benefiting from rock-solid cast chemistry and clad in appealingly retro 1960s design. This crack at the Fantastic Four does Marvel's first family justice. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I mean, yeah, the cast is so good. Almost too good. What are you talking about? But yeah, I mean, there's no arguing how good it looks. And the world that they have created, feels different but lived in. It's like you really got the sense that Ben and Johnny, even though they aren't brothers and they aren't best of friends, they are essentially becoming brothers and best of friends, like they're uncles to Franklin, even though, Ben's not technically blood related. And I thought that, maybe that's what I was like. You see Ben and Reed before they're going in the first trip to space, when they haven't been transformed by the cosmic rays. And it's like you get that little exchange between Reed and Ben, and that was great, but you don't really, I don't know that you really see that after that. It's like that definitely feels like Ben and Johnny are closer than Reed and Ben, which is weird because Reed and Ben are best friends, apparently. I don't know. 90% of verified audience members gave it a 4.4, or 90% of verified audience members on Rotten Tomatoes gave it a good review. 4.4 out of 5 rating for the verified audience. 86% of all audience members gave it a good review, with a 4.3 out of 5 rating as the average. 4.3 and 4.4 to 5 feels high. I'm closer to like a 4.1, high 3, 4.1. The audience says the Fantastic Four takes the world by storm. Thing, Reed, Johnny, and Baby forging a new path for this bespoke family that, with these first steps, leaps into cosmic action with retro-futuristic verve. Man, retro-futurism is having a moment. What was that? Oh my God, I already forgot about that movie. It was the Russo brothers, Netflix, Electric State. Was that it? The Electric State. Oh my God. It had Millie Bobby Brown, Chris Pratt. My God, it released in March. Man, that feels forever ago. Wow. Stanley Tucci, Anthony Mackie, Alan Tudyk, Ke-Huy Quan, set in an alternate 1990s retro-futuristic. Yeah. I mean, that was another movie that looked great and just did not connect for some reason. It has such abysmal ratings from the critics. I didn't mind it. So what does the future hold for the Fantastic Four? A sequel to First Steps was reported to be in development in June of 2025. In August, reports that Shackman was expected to return to direct the sequel, which Marvel Studios believed would perform better financially than First Steps once the Fantastic Four had been seen in Doomsday and Secret Wars. Very interesting. Typically, the common rule or expression that I've come across with sequels is it costs twice as much to produce and make, but makes half as much as the first one. So, but they're saying the sequel is going to be a lot better, and I kind of have to agree, because I feel like we have just scratched the surface with the Fantastic Four. This was a nice little jaunt into what they're capable of, and then you're going to see them kind of more fully unleashed in Doomsday. But in terms of the MCU, so this is the First Steps is the first installment film in the MCU Phase 6. The next one up, Spider-Man Brand New Day. That'll release end of July 31st, 2026. Gotta tell you, I'm not too hyped for that. I don't know what's going on. I feel like, to me, like, oh my God, what was the one that released in 2021? So that's another movie that people are walking back on. Spider-Man No Way Home in 2021, which I was, oh my God, so pumped for, so excited for, and it met and exceeded expectations. It was just like was great, and now people are walking back how great it was. They're like, no, it's just nostalgia bait. They're just fan service. It's just this and that. Like, hard disagree, dude. I really love that movie, and I feel like I need to rewatch it. But for whatever reason, it's like, is it only available on Stars? That cannot be right. I think it's on Disney Plus, right? Maybe not. So that felt like No Way Home. Just it felt like the good kind of not ends, but like you had the trilogy. You had Homecoming, Far From Home, No Way Home, like Bing Bang Boom. But now we're gonna go into Brand New Day. So curious to see where they take Spider-Man in that direction. And maybe I don't know. Maybe they do keep it on the they're it feels like all the attention and chatter is around Doomsday, and like not a lot of people are talking about Spider-Man Brand New Day, and maybe Marvel and Kevin Feige want that to happen so that they can absolutely blow us out of the water when it does come out with something like crazy. Wouldn't hate that. So yeah, after Spider-Man Brand New Day, you get Avengers Doomsday, which will release December 18th, 2026, a year from now. And then almost a year to the day after that comes Avengers Secret Wars, December 17th, 2027. So what's interesting about this is like people were so out on the MCU after phase 5 that I don't know that people are necessarily back in, but I don't know what it is, but I have a really good feeling about what is about to go down in the next 3 movies. Like, I really do think that they are going to land the plane on this in phase 6 and retroactively make the previous movies that it came in phase 5 looked upon in a whole new light. I really do think that they're going to pull this off and that it's all going to come together and all make sense once Secret Wars wraps. I really do think. Is it going to be on the level of Endgame? That's a tall order. I'm going to say no, but I'm going to say it's going to be damn close. And I really do think that we're going to look back on the previous films in a whole new light, and we're going to be like, oh, and like our whole outlook, perspective, opinion of those movies is going to shift, not radically, but it's going to improve. It's my two cents. So that's the episode. The next episode, or the next movie review I'm going to do at least, is supposed to be Predator Badlands. I really want to get into that, and I'm like obnoxiously ambitious about, like, immediately after watching the movie, I was like, oh, I now have to talk about XYZ and like get into the whole world and universe and where that franchise is heading. I'm just going to do a movie review of Predator Badlands, and then hopefully a really quick, like what I just did with Spider-Man with MCU Phase 6. Hopefully I can do that with the Predator franchise. Just a nice little appendix tag on mid-credits, post-credits scene, if you will. And then after that, I think I got to do weapons, man. I got to do weapons. I also just saw, like I said, I saw Roofman, which I don't know if I'll do a full review on that, but that's a recommend for me, dog. Running Man is also something that's I feel compelled to talk about because I love the original so much from '87 with Schwarzenegger. So I was thinking I would do like maybe like a side-by-side comparison review where it's like a quick review of Running Man 25 versus Running Man 87. So that is something that's kind of in development, if you will. Weapons, Running Man. I don't think I'm going to fully review Roofman or One Battle After Another. I mean, Roofman, I loved it, but I don't know that I need to go that in depth with it. One Battle After Another, first viewing, I don't know what to think, dude. And it has such great reviews that I feel like I'm missing something. And I don't know if it's just because it's tapping into like what's currently hot and hot button topic in the States, but I don't know, maybe it requires a second viewing. So I don't think I'm going to review that. But Weapons, I do think I need to review big time. That is just a movie that I was actually going to do alongside like a twofer. So just as I was going to do Running Man 25 versus Running Man 87, I was thinking about doing like a Weapons versus Bring Her Back, because Bring Her Back was out of control, and it feels like they live in the same universe. Dun dun dun. All right. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching, sharing, commenting, liking, subscribing, following, DMing, sharing, hyping. And we'll talk to you next time. Adios, muchachos.